What is happening, everybody? So I just want to thank you all for any of you that are actually tuning in live. Thank you all; it is always appreciated. So before I introduce Lom, this one's going to be a cool one. It's going to be interesting to hear his journey into tattooing, and obviously being that Lom's from Latvia, it'd also be interesting to hear a little bit about the tattoo culture from Latvia as well, which I've said on a few podcasts when I've interviewed people from that side of Europe that the culture is definitely different, and I think I think there's a little bit more of a hunger for creativity, and that's not chatting shit on anyone else in the world that's tattooing. I think that you got like Poland, Latvia, Lithuania. The tattoo culture is on fire there. So before I introduce Lom, I'm going to have just a massive shout out again to both my sponsors. One is Cold Coffee. The coffee it's awesome. So head over and check out www.coldskullcoffee. Get your order in. First time you order, I think you get 10% off. Also, if you use Cold 666, I believe you continue to get 10% off your future purchases. And also Silverback cuts. If you guys are into the custom bike scene, and even if you're not, and you're keen in the gym, Lucas over at Silverback Cuts, he's doing gym wear, he's doing custom made cuts for leather, textiles. Really cool decorative knives as well. Some really, really cool stuff that Lucas is doing over there. So again, that's www.silverbackcuts.com. You can also find both of them on Instagram. So it's Silverback Cuts 1 for Silverback Cuts, and Cold Skull Coffee on Instagram as well. Just hit them up, give them a follow, and support small brands. So I'm going to stop waffling on. I say this every time, and I'm going to introduce Lom onto the podcast, and we're going to get to hear his story. How we doing, mate?
All good.
It's good to have you on here, buddy. Oh, I'm clicking wrong buttons here.
1 second. To make it louder.
Yeah, no, I can hear you perfectly, bud.
Can you? Yeah.
So,
all right.
So, introduce yourself, man.
Well, my name is Lom. I'm obviously, as you heard, I'm from Latvia. Started tattooing though in England, in Liverpool. Been tattooing for about 10 years now, ish. About 10 years. Yeah.
Awesome. So did you start your tattoo career in the UK then?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I was always in the tattoos. Like I had a friends in Latvia that were tattooists, and it was always fun. I was always kind of like within the group of friends that were like doing graffitis, like rappers, like tattooists. But back then I used to do graffiti more than tattooing because it was complicated to get in. And also one of my best friends, he was the only tattoo artist in my hometown. And I used to do a lot of like drawings for him and sketches and stuff, but he would never teach me because why would you need a competition?
That's
the thing. I started over here.
So did you come? So obviously, moving to the UK, was it one of your main intentions to get into tattooing, or was it just something that you kind of fell into?
I would be a liar if I would say this. So to be fair, when I finished, I did study in the uni. I did study graphic design and art, and when I was already in the uni, I knew that I will move away. I wanted to move out of the country. It wasn't like bad for me or anything. I was working in a newspaper as a designer, like photographer. Then when I finished uni, I did move to capital and I did work there as like in the biggest nightclub in Latvia, most successful at that time. I don't think it exists now. But yeah, I used to work there as a graphic designer as well. Then I went like on the freelance, but it was a bit like boring, I would say. Latvia is a tiny country. Nothing really happens there ever. So I did always wanted to move out. But the way I end up in England is just a pure coincidence. I will not lie to you. I just got the job offer. It was actually in Kold. It was sort of a shop manager and not like a tattoo shop manager. It was just a food store manager, because I do speak a couple of languages. They invited me to kind of, it was through, he's not even my family member, but he used to be my family member. He opened the shop and he needed like someone to, to work with, like was looking for a team. And I was sort of available. I was looking somewhere to, to move to, which wasn't Hull. But then I met my future wife, moved to Liverpool, and it started over there. So it started all over here for me. Obviously when I moved over here, there was no language. My English was terrible. I mean, I thought that I knew, how to talk. I was okay in school and university. Like I used to listen to rap and stuff, obviously, all that. But when you move to Liverpool and you hear Scouse, it was like, okay, now we're talking. It's completely different story, and then the slang and an accent and everything. So first couple of, I would even say years, to be fair, it took me just to get used to the language and just find myself. So I did work. Did work as every other foreigner. I did work through the warehouses and made my way up. So I started, because I was a manager in one shop. Then I moved to Liverpool and I started to work in the warehouse, being a warehouse or something like that. And I just decided that's it. Like I had enough of this shit. I need to get back into the art industry, or around art. I just quit it, and then like I literally sat at home and were like trying to draw everything and kind of find the best way. And then I found the job opportunity. Tattoo supplies company were looking for some sort of shop warehouse manager, audit, something like that. And I just decided to apply for it. I thought, before that, I used to walk around the city. I used to work around the city and like asking for, like popping into any tattoo shop that I could see. I was like, can you take me in? But obviously, my language was shit. Instead of saying like, I would like to become an apprentice. Like, here's my works. Is there any chance I could stick to your shop and like you show me the ways? I would walk into the shop with a terrible like accent, be like, I would like to become a tattoo master. Can you teach me? And obviously they looked at me like, who the fuck are you? Like just get out. So I thought, if I can't find, if I cannot walk into the main door, what can I do to get into it? So I thought that the warehouse is like a great opportunity, because I still can, get better in my English, find the connections, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I started there as a, just like working in a warehouse, literally taking, accepting all the deliveries, sending guys to the conventions and stuff, packing the van with the stuff. Got familiar with all the things, needles, et cetera, et cetera. And then this company started to grow, and they need the graphic designer. I was like, I did work as a graphic designer for about 10 years before that, so I have like portfolio and shit, and education in it. So brought my portfolio.
Did they know you? Did they know you were a graphic designer beforehand, or did you just kind of
No. They only took me there. They only took me there because I was like, look, I have a few tattoos. I am familiar with the shit. And then, I did work as a manager in one shop, and I was working in a warehouse. So it's like, them things, they work together. But then the fact that, they took me as a graphic designer is a pure coincidence. I just, happened to be, I literally went, I used to smoke at that time. So I went on my ciggy break, and I spoke to the owner of a company without knowing that he's the owner of a company. He was like, okay, bring your portfolio tomorrow and, we'll have a look. And then after that, I was doing like 12-hour shifts. In the morning, I would be in a warehouse stacking all the shelves for the pickers. And then, after lunch, I would go up into the office and do, advertisement of like, top brand, tattoo stuff. And the company started to grow big time. So I then moved to, full-time graphic designer. Did a lot of stuff for them. Like we did a lot advertisement in the magazines, and our own stuff, our own brand, selling, like redesigning pretty much everything there. They only now recently changed the logo. like upgraded the logo. Before that, for quite a few years, they used my logo that I did for them, and and stuff.
Yeah.
So it started to grow from there, and then it just happened that one of the days, the owner's friend popped into the shop, and he was looking for someone who could do a banner for him for the convention. And
Oh, that's cool.
the owner just literally pointed on me, said, like, "This dude can sort you out." So I was sitting on the computer, like, doing the design for him, and it was like, "No way, like, you can do shit fast. Can you teach me?" I was like, "Yeah, sound." He was like, "I will pay you." I was like,
Wow.
yeah, man. Like, don't pay me for my lessons. Let's do, like, I'm doing a deal for you. You're doing a deal for me. Like, I will teach you how to work in the graphic programs, and you will teach me how to, get into tattooing, how to do it physically. Because I had my stuff. I did buy all the equipment, tattooed myself, and it was absolutely terrible. Like, at that time, I was still young. I
Yeah.
did not feel much pain, so I tattooed myself, scarred myself, pushed myself, like, absolutely, like, had no ideas what I'm doing. So at that point, I did know that, like, I need to have someone who can show me the ways. And it just happened to, we just agreed on that, and yeah, that was the apprenticeship for me. That was the beginning of apprenticeship. It was good because he was a foreigner as a Mexican, and I was a foreigner, so it did kind of we understood each other without talking much.
Oh, that's cool. So did you? So obviously, when you went into your apprenticeship, did you go down the conventional way of apprenticing, like like hygiene, needles, setting up?
Yeah, man. I mean, I had it an old way as well, like, mopping the floors, setting up the, station for him, checking the needles, cleaning everything, autoclave and, all this shit. Like, we had it all. In a way, I would say I was lucky to get into tattooing when it was still, people still used to use needles. Now it's a little bit different system. It became way more easier. You don't need to,
everyone's using cartridges,
Yeah, everyone uses cartridges these days, and you don't need to clean your grips and tips and everything. You don't, like, most people don't even know what it is to do, to clean everything with autoclave. They don't understand it anymore.
No.
So
no, exactly.
I got that bit a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and so I work part time in a studio here in Market Wheaton, and like I'm not at a level to teach anybody. However, my work's presentable enough to be able to work in a studio. And people say to me, "Oh, how like." I don't get it a lot, but people say, like, what do I need to do? And I'm like, look, to be honest, like, I'm not the guy to teach you. I said, but however, I said, hygiene is key. I said, you can be the greatest tattooist in the world, like, art wise, and you're able to implement a cool tattoo. I said, but if you're dirty, if you're not cleaning properly, and I said, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I said, do you know what I mean?
It's one of the main things. I had a few people asking me for apprenticeship, but the problem is, like, I think these days people, a bit of lazy, them kids that want to get into tattooing, they just don't want to do anything. They don't want to. We had apprentices that didn't want to mop the floor. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to mop the floor? It was like, when I was an apprentice, I didn't get to choose, do I want to mop it or not? Like, I had to do it. I would also say, like, the very important thing for, as I believe, is drawing. Like, you have to draw. When I see the person messaging me asking about, like, apprenticeship and they have nothing to show, I'm like, well, how do you want to get into tattooing if you don't show me your drawings, you don't show me your portfolio, like, you don't have any? Or if the person sends me a portfolio that literally just copy and paste from Pinterest, like, that's not what I want to see. I want to see you. Maybe you won't have the best drawings in the world, but I want to see you trying. I want to see like, when you started drawing, and when you finished drawing. I want to see the finished piece, and, like, I want to see how you progress through that. A lot of people don't do it these days, unfortunately.
And that's kind of like, before obviously I brought you onto the stage of the podcast. Like, like I said, I know my level of tattooing. I'm very honest in what I can do. But when like I was saying before you came on, was like, Europe, like Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, like there's a hunger. And I think that 100%. Obviously, and I think it's not literally just a hunger to create art. I think that when you look at, like, how much harder life is to earn a good living over over in Europe. There's that. Not only is there a hunger to learn art, but there's a hunger to literally feed your family and to improve in life. And I think obviously, unfortunately, in the UK, there is an element of comfort. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that, like you said, people can't even be bothered to draw before they're coming into the studio, and unfortunately, social media and TV programs have made this rock and roll lifestyle to tattooing, which, to be honest, it's obviously there, but it's only there once you've earned your stripes. Once you've spent years in, exactly right. Once
and the percentage of artists that can afford themselves this, this rock and roll way of life. Like most people don't understand how much we work behind the scene.
Yeah.
I work in the studio, like I'm actually earning money like 4 days a week. It's like 10 to 5, and you think, oh dude, he's lucky he only gets to do like, was like 20 something hours a week. Well, like they don't see behind the scenes that like at home I spend most of my time drawing, preparing designs, stenciling, like I get home from work, I get to spend about 2 hours with my kid before he goes to bed. And like when he goes to bed, instead of like, doing nothing, I sit and draw like till 10, 11, 12, 1. It's constantly, you constantly have to draw, you constantly have to improve. The improvement is a big deal as well, like you constantly.
No, exactly. And it's like, like when I first started learning to tattoo, and like I was really fixated on drawing, I was like 30 hours into an A3 drawing of Pennywise, like, and I'm not even fast. Like I'm not even fast at tattooing, but it was like I understood what's involved, the commitment involved. I mean, I was self-taught. I am self-taught. I'm self-learning. But to be honest, like I got so much involved in what I'm trying to achieve with 666 Customs and my social media platforms and with the bikes and things, that tattooing for me took a sidestep. I'm lucky enough to be able to dip my toe into it pretty much as and when I want to. I'm very, very lucky that the studio I work in part-time, he understands that I work full-time. And also this is obviously podcasting, social media activities is pretty much a full-time job as well. So I'm very lucky that he literally, if like some of the crazy like horror style stuff that I enjoy doing comes up, and he's like, Josh, this is here if you want it. So I'm very, very lucky in the position I'm in over at Nordic Inc. here in Markiwi, and so like that's why I've not progressed, is because I haven't been able to give it the time that it truly deserves. And I say it like I keep saying, like I know I'm in a position that I'm lucky, but also I'm also very honest in my capability. Like I don't claim to be anywhere near the standard of people like yourself, other people that I've had on.
I wouldn't say I'm there, but
Oh no, mate. I mean, but your work's
about it. That's it.
Yeah. That's yeah. But you can see that you're like the tone in your shading, the saturations. It's like you can see your work is definitely it's clean, man. It's clean, presentable, and it's good. Like obviously, like you say, you're working 4 days a week, probably booked up every 4 days. So it's saying something about your work,
Well, it's like, how to say it better. I think you have, in order to get into tattooing, you have to be passionate. Like you need to be addictive to the shit, man. Like without being addictive to it, you will not live in it forever. You won't survive there for long, because the competition is crazy. And obviously, we're talking about the dead seasons. We're talking about, let's be honest, sometimes, like dirty clients that you don't want to do it, but at the same time, the amount of cool stuff that you get, emotions of the clients that you see, like when they're happy with their pieces, when they trust you enough to do something, like one-off piece for them that never been done before. You kind of like, you become also almost like a vampire. You feed on that, like it's hard to live without these emotions. Like when I go on a holidays with the family, like we go for 2 weeks, and after like a week, I have a rest for a week, and after a week, I'm like, that's it, I had enough. I want to go back. I want to draw something. Like I feel this, like as if I'm almost like addictive to this shit. I need to get back. I need to get back into the drawing. It's addictive. It's definitely addictive.
I've lost, like, I had that at the beginning, and like I'm not even ashamed to admit it. Like, I lost that. I mean, I still love to slap some stuff together on like Ibis Paint X. You know, obviously the equivalent, the equivalent of Photoshop. I haven't picked up a pencil, man, in years. And I mean, I've designed some pretty cool stuff. I've drawn some pretty freaky, weird looking shit. And but yeah, man, it's just like this is where I've said it a lot on the podcast. Passion comes in on the days you don't want to do it. Like, you know, when you're thriving, when your client's telling you how incredible you are, like, at the end of the day, like, passion isn't there at that moment because you're absorbing this gratitude from people. The passion is on the day where you're like, oh, you know what, I'm really tired, like, but I have got to design this piece. You know, that's my belief. Like, I believe the passion comes in on the days you don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you see tattooing, like, as much as it's in a way kind of a lifestyle, it's still a job, you know, like, and you still have to pay the bills. And what I always like to say, I don't think that tattooing is an art industry. I disagree with it big time. In fact, I actually argue quite a lot with another artist, even in our studio. Like, you know, a lot of people say that, oh, it's an art, but it's not really. It is a craft. It's all about the craft. If you look at the definition of art, none of it fits into tattooing. Like, art is when you say something through your work. You know, you want to deliver a message. But tattooing is more of a, you know, you're a tool. You've been used by the client to deliver a message. So in that case, you know, you just, you know, the drill, you just, you know, the hand that applies the image on, like, you deliver a message, you apply the message that your client wants to deliver to the world. And it is more of a craftsmanship, you know, rather than an art.
But then, I mean,
and in a way, like as much as a craft it is,
really.
As much as it's fun, you still have to pay your bills, and it's like you have to push yourself. So it's a bit of like a mix between it all, like, don't you think so?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, but I also think that, like, and this is coming from like the wanting to create cool bikes, or what I perceive to be a cool bike. I think that craft is an art as well. I think because an art form is like you said, to be able to create through your eyes, to create something you want. I mean, obviously that's what I can understand. Like you said, like, you art is obviously the image you're creating for the person. You're the crafter, but crafting, just the word craft, it's like that word doesn't. I mean, really exist
I don't know why,
anymore,
but people put a bit of people think that being a craft is if it's like a lower level of an art, or it's not, you know, it's not important. I by no means think that, you know, I don't mean that it's not as important or it's not as cool. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the pottery that we get to see in the museum these days, you know, it's a craft as well. You know, sculpture, well, sculpture maybe is a bit more of an art form, but especially nowadays when you see, you know, if you go to the museum and you check all this, like, you know, modern art, like, I'd rather be called a craftsman than an artist. You know, I disagree with the idea of, you know, you taping banana to the wall and you sell it for, like, you know, 10,000 quid. You know, for me, that's not an art either.
No.
And I'd rather be called a craftsman or crafter, whatever it's called, you know, rather than being compared with these type of an artist. So by no means, I'm not saying that this is a lower or not as important or not as cool form of, you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's like with, you know, obviously I've shown my drawings to some people and they say, oh, you know, I wish I could draw like that. I'm saying, of course you can draw like that. And they're like, no, I can't. I said, and I turn around and I say, no, what you can't do is you can't see. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, because I read the book, Betty Edwards, How to Draw on the Right Side of the Brain. And I explain like how she explains it in the book. And I'm saying, look, it's simple. The fact that you can't see it yet. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, your brain isn't able to configure how you need to manipulate the pencil to create that image. I said, it's literally once you understand it, once you know what you need to see, and whether you recognize it in shapes or shadows or colors or circles or whatever it is, you know, once you see it, you'll get it. I said, obviously,
100%.
You know, repetition, and that's where I fully agree with drawing being very critical. Is like like when I've gone months without tattooing, man, the first thing I'm struggling with in the first few hours is my muscles in my hand. You know what I mean? It's like obviously like I do like black and gray shade, like black and gray work, and I typically don't rely on heavy lines, so I don't have to worry about A to B solid bang power lines. You know, I do a lot of bloodlining, and you know, so so I already know that it doesn't really, in my opinion, how and the level I tattoo at is it's not really critical for me to be able to do solid lines, because I might be doing like a little portrait of like Frankenstein's monster or something like that. However, obviously it's going to be much better if I can get some solid references in, and you know, like, do you know what I mean? Like my honestly, my weak point in tattooing is I still find it hard sometimes to get heavy saturation of black. Like obviously layering up, like I use the Cheyenne Thunder. And like you know, I'm really light at tattooing, so obviously I can push the skin quite far before it's overworked. But saturating, there's almost still like this element of me that I almost feel like a savage, you know, like banging some solid black into the back, like into the bottom, underneath the drop shadow under the chin, and I'm like, oh fucking hell, this like this guy's probably hating me right now, you know. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's but definitely, like you say,
it's all about practice, isn't it?
Yeah,
I believe that like drawing. I mean, I agree with you that drawing and like tattooing, it's kind of simple. You need to know a simple rules. Like rules are simple.
Yeah,
you know, it's easy to build a drawing. It's easy to to tattoo in certain ways. Yeah, all you have to do just obey the laws of this. You need to learn them. That's why it's more of like a skill. It's easy to get this skill. It's easy to get this knowledge. I mean, I used to have. I spent four years in uni, studying all this shit. But like nowadays, you can just click and click a few times onto YouTube, but find the lessons. It's all the information is there. When I used to study in uni, there was no such a thing. Well, it was an internet, but the level of the internet, there was like you couldn't find yourself like in art books and shit. You still had to go to the library.
Yeah.
But the laws are simple. If you want to draw a portrait, start with a circle and a square. You get me? It's that basic. Yep. There's nothing better was ever created since then. It's just learning the ways and then applying it to see it. Yeah, you need to, in order for you to create a cool design, cool idea, you need to generate it from somewhere, and that only can happen if you have something there, something that is kind of working.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I said when I interviewed Darren McKeggar a couple of months ago, just before Christmas, I said to him like, what was it? One of the famous sayings is, a good artist creates, a great artist steals inspiration.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like I don't know. There's a very poetic way it's said. I certainly haven't got that right, but like it's true though, isn't it? Because like people are like, oh, it's original art. I'm trying. People are copying. Like at the end of the day, like we're so spoiled for inspiration that like for me, one that you did that I thought was really really cool was when you did like the I think it's like a statue with like the CCTV cameras in it. Like,
oh yeah.
Like it's so powerful, especially in today's, like in what's happening right now in the world. I think 100%. That like the message there is like powerful as hell. Like it's like to be able to kind of like create art, but like almost like the feeling to me was like, yes, there's art, but however, you're completely avoiding, like you're missing the point that you are watched. Like we are, it's like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, man. Like, and that I thought was a really cool design, really, really fucking cool design.
Thank you. I think there's actually a good book. It's called "Still Like an Artist." You can Google it. You can find it anywhere. Read it. It's actually quite useful, and it's pretty much same stuff as you say. It's all about that. Also, psychologically, it's been proved that human brain cannot create. It's impossible. The stuff that we call creative, it's actually all these small bits and elements that we've seen in our life. I mean, you could see it on the telly, you could see it with your own eyes, you could see it, in the museum, but it's everything that you saw. Your brain digests it and makes sort of a mesh out of it. And that's that's when you think that you create something. It's not, it's actually not. It's all the images that you've seen in your life before. That's what generates your style in a way.
It's crazy, right? Because they also say that because obviously we're effectively absorbing so much information through our eyes, that you simply recognize shapes, and it's repetition that the brain will look at the television on the wall. And I mean, if you imagine you had a TV on the wall 30 years ago, the first thing that your brain would have been saying is, "What the fuck is that?" But now you see a rectangle on the wall, and bump, you already know it's a TV. Because if your brain had to analyze the whole thing, you'd be stood there for half an hour, like you would be the first time you see it. So, like you said, like it's the brain is recognizing shapes, it recognizes colors, shapes, and it's simply through pure repetition that we are able to recognize what we are roughly looking at. Which is like when I messaged you the other day, like when I saw that the Japanese tower you did, first thing I saw was that fucking face in them rocks, and I was like, because I'm massively into like the more you look, the more you see. And for example, one of the paint jobs on my bike is very much like that. It's like I got like a torn. It's like someone's grabbed the side of the candy and torn it off the tank, and underneath I got like a two-tone chameleon flake white pearl, and accidentally we used a really cheap tape to create the torn effect. So we took imagine a 30 mil wide tape, and I tore it down the middle and created a natural tear, and then I stuck that on the tank, and when I peeled it off, it left the paper fibers in the paint, which was completely accidental, but it literally added to the realism of it being torn, because it literally was real piece of fiber of paper. And the point is, you will never see that if you were stood even 2 meters from the tank. You will never see it. It's the closer you get. So I like the fact that the more you look, the more you see. And what was crazy for me was when I zoomed in, and the reason why I zoomed in on that picture is I'm actually about to do a Japanese tower on the back of this guy's arm. And so I zoomed in because I'm trying to get like how you did the rocks, because I've got to do some rockery on the back of the elbow. It drops down onto a Henya mask I've done on the forearm. And I'm like, right, how's he pulled off the rockery? Because it's like, I already, because it's near the elbow, I know that there's no point me going massively
only
detailed.
One pass as well.
Do you know what I mean? Right. And then I literally zoomed in. I was like, fucking hell, there's that. Look at his face. And you didn't even know it was there. I was like, but as soon as I highlighted it, I showed you, you're like, it's there, isn't it? It's crazy, isn't it?
And also, like, on top of all of that, it's like our brain, it's actually, I read about it. It's actually started, it's evolution thing, when we were, a caveman, when we used to go and hunt, we developed, this part of the brain got developed because in order for us, when we would go hunting, not to be hunted by predators, like a jaguar, like a jaguar is ultimate predator. It actually evolutions to hunt us human beings. Human beings, like we were not far from monkeys back then. But like obviously they would sit in the bushes hiding, with all the texture on their fur. We developed this part of the brain to see things like, like that, like attention, like the danger in the bushes, in the texture, when someone tries to hide from you and you will see it. But now it plays another jokes with us. Like that's the same part of the brain that is now working on creativity. And then we see it, all these, when you see the shapes and the clouds and all this stuff, it's the same part of the brain. And artists, this part of the brain is developed on the artists. But on top of that, we're talking about, for example, all the images that you've seen in the world in your life. But like on top of it, we don't even talk about only images that we've seen and digested. But what about 25th frame? If you think about it, it's kind of crazy because that human eye can only see 24 frames per second. But if you add 25th one, then your brain still sees it, and it reacts on it, but you don't have a feeling that you've seen it. They used to do it in the cinemas and stuff. They used to put like a movie, and while they would have 24 frames, 25th one would show like a Coca-Cola or like, a popcorn and stuff, and you would see this frame, your brain would see it and be like, oh, I actually want to drink or I want to eat something.
Wow.
But you physically
Wow.
wouldn't see it. It would be enough moments for your brain to send a signal to you, like, what, let's go and get some popcorn and stuff. So it's
That's
not only what
crazy,
you
isn't it?
see, it's what your brain sees.
I mean,
How
I
crazy is
think
that?
I think it's truly incredible how the brain works. I mean, I'm massively driven to like learn more. Like my missus, she's epileptic, and she's got fibromyalgia, which are both conditions that are caused from the brain.
Yeah.
So I kind of like dive, not all the time. Like I struggle to like obtain information that I'm reading. So like, but however, the point being is I'm very fascinated because I believe that if the brain's able to create it, these obviously these lunging conditions, I also believe the brain's able to remove them or certainly move around them, which which is just like, it's crazy. It's like you say,
to the certain
no,
extent, I believe it's like our brain is like a computer, and we don't really know the system of it. Truly, we don't really
no.
know how far we can get into the system, and move the blocks around, move all the apps around, and some of the apps can get you an error. Some of the apps can be like running without you even knowing it, to the certain extent. Obviously, I'm not
Yeah,
paranoid, but
absolutely, no, absolutely, and that's what I mean. It's like you said, it's obviously, for example, with epilepsy, and there's different levels of epilepsy. But if you go down to the one that everyone recognizes, which is unconscious having a seizure on the floor, for example, like this simply is that all the neurons are like your movement, thought, control, everything, breathing, it's all effectively firing at the same time, which is completely out of sync, hence why it's a seizure. But like you say, it's just like, it's just crazy, and it's crazy because obviously that same thing that unfortunately causes this life-changing condition, whether you're born with it or whether you're not, it's also the same thing that's able to help you support your family because you're able to compute an image you see, digest it in there, send it to your hand. It's
it
crazy.
all comes from there.
Do you know what
It
I mean? It's
starts
like,
there.
exactly. It's like, probably, for example, like you might have been saying, okay, what we're going to talk about, but like we never would have thought all of a sudden we're heading into like the world of like the fucking thoughts of the brain and shit like that. But
But
it's
that's
just, it's
better, it is so much better to, in a way, improvise, rather than, like when you have a script and you have to move through the script and shit, so much more
yeah.
interesting to see
I
where the
don't run a
conversation
script.
can lead you to.
Yeah. I don't. People ask, oh,
That's
do you
one
have
of the reasons.
a piece of
That's
paper?
one of the reasons I moved into tattooing, because when I used to work as a graphic designer, I hated, I kind of like lost the passion for graphic design. I used to love it, but when I used to sit like 24 hours next to the computer, and you literally stare in this box and you see no one, like nothing, you have no more, like you don't have information from outside of your room. And then when you get into tattooing, and every day you have a client that bring you the new stories, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's crazy, and you're like, what the hell, like how boring
Yeah.
my life is. But you get this information all the time, and the stories are so amazing sometimes, it's so
Yeah.
crazy. This is fascinating me because it's like
Yeah.
the people you get to see, and you get to talk about, I don't even want to go too deep into it.
Everything.
It's like some of the conversations, the way they lead you to the things, like the places they lead you to, like, whoa, like
Yeah.
how did we turn that way? How we end up
Yeah.
talking about, a bloody some stuff that I don't want to
Yeah.
mention.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, even at my level of tattooing, which is, I tattoo maybe once, twice a month, sometimes. Maybe I don't. I think at the moment I haven't tattooed since like November. But when you are tattooing, it's like you become a counselor. It's like,
Oh yeah,
I mean, me, for example, when I get tattooed, like it's like I put my brain into a counseling session, because obviously effectively you're experiencing pain, and I don't know. I relate pain to obviously pain of generally speaking, negative emotions, and I kind of feel like when I left the studio after an 8-hour session of like, I almost feel like I fucking let a load of shit out, you know. And I've said nothing of the nature. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm a massive believer in you got to earn your tattoos. Like, I've never used numbing cream. Don't get me wrong, I haven't been tattooed on my ribs yet or the back of my arm yet. But however, I've never used numbing cream. I'm a massive believer in you earn your tattoo at least by feeling them.
Yeah, I mean, get into the back of a knee. I'll see how you will talk about that.
No, but that's it. That's like I said, you know, I haven't had the back of the knee.
I used the numbing cream on back of a knee, and I did then had a bit of a touch up without it. I mean, it was a bit of a difference. Yeah, I mean, I did both. I did both. I mean, I did deserve my tattoos, most of them. The worst one was like a rib cage. I mean, that was 10 hours, I think, in one go. We were in the convention, so it had to be done in one go. That's when I first time thought, you know what, like, do I really need that shit? When we were tattooing one side of my ribcage, I already had a design for another one. And this was about 10 years ago. I still did not tattoo this second design on the second side. I was like, nah, when I'm done, when I'm covered completely, that's the last bit I will go to. Like, that is the absolute last one.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, it's one of the things, you know, with the clients. It's I think you get yourself into like intimate situation when there's like, you know, you barely know the person, you barely know an artist, you don't know who he is, but you trust him enough, and then, you know, you trust him to suffer the pain and get something out of it. So you quite often allowed yourself to, you know, talk about something that you wouldn't talk to, you know, family members or friends.
Yeah.
And you know that it's going to stay there. So it's, in a way, it's interesting. It's fascinating what people talk about when they struggle, when they go through the pain, isn't it? And they trust you all that. It is interesting. And then, as I said, like the situations, I'm exaggerating, just, you know, as an example, like, you know, one day you can tattoo a police officer, and another day you will tattoo, you know, the drug dealer that you will try to find, you know, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, man.
And you get to know all these situations, all these stories, and you're like, okay, I guess, you know, you gave me too much of information that I should, you know, forget immediately. So sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Exactly. No, that's it. And I mean, like, what attracted me to tattooing is my dad's you know, an old school biker anyway, and he already had like, he only ever had 2 tattoos in top of the forearm, top of the arm, both sides, and that was all he had at the time. But nevertheless, old school biker. So I grew up fascinated with like that outlaw rebel, like rebel to society vibe. And to be honest, that's pretty much what attracted me to tattooing. And then one of the villages I lived in Spain, my neighbor, who was Argentine, was fully sleeved up. And back in like the mid 2000s in Spain, there wasn't many people that were fully sleeved. Typically, if you saw someone heavily tattooed, like heavily fully sleeved up, at the very least, they were normally not Spanish. They were normally like, say, English or Germany, like, you know what I mean, like, or American. It typically was not. I mean, and it's crazy because like I left Spain in 2010, and all of a sudden, like the scene in Spain is just blown up massive, you know. Especially like you got like Samuel from like Barcelona. You got like fucking. I mean, I made friends with a guy called Javi Mete Tintas. He's sponsored by Radiant. You know, he tattoos all over Europe. And when I found out he literally tattooed like 40 minutes from where I lived, I was like, what the fuck? Like, this wasn't happening back then, you know? And, you know, again, it's just...
You just reminded me how I got into tattooing, how I felt like, you know what, I will get one myself. So my father, well, I have to start a little bit from behind. Like, in our part of the world, tattooing started more as a criminal. So if over here, you know, England, America, it all started with more like working class people, like dock workers in the ports, you know, sailors, you know, etc., etc.
Yep.
In post-Soviet countries, it started with the criminals. They were getting tattooed in the, you know, in the jails and all this stuff. So tattoos in our part of the world, they do have a lot of meaning. So like you can get yourself in trouble if you will tattoo the wrong thing on you, and somebody who's related to it will say it. Like you will get yourself in trouble. It's less and less and less of that, but it still happens, especially like in a like, how to say it, the more far you from the town, the more you can get into the trouble, from the city. It was more or less in the army as well. Like people used to get tattoos in the army, nothing big or major. So my father, he was in the army. He was actually in the North Pole. He was a sailor, and he had 2 tigers there, like jumping on each other. And I remember being a kid, I used to lay on him, and like we used to look at them, and I was like, and because he was so hairy, he had such a hairy back. You would have like, okay, so there's a tail. There's a head. There's like something else. You couldn't see the whole image. You could see like a cloud of hairs, and you would need to kind of go through these bushes and check it. And I remember laying on him, looking at these tattoos. I was like, wow, like every man's supposed to have a tattoo. Like man's supposed to have them. And since like being, I don't know, like about 7 years old, I knew I'm gonna get one. So as soon as I turned 18, my first holidays I went to, I literally went to work, and I did work through the summer. And my first wage I spent on the first tattoo straight away. Like first thing that I did, I was like, I'm getting a tattoo. I mean, it was shit. Like the tattoo, it's half covered now. Usually people like to leave their first tattoos as like, as a memory. But I was like, no. This shit cannot stay as a memory. This shit has to go. Like, but it was like, it was the first thing. It was the first thing.
That's it, innit? I mean, like I haven't covered it. I mean, I've got like half my left. I got from my hand halfway to my elbow. I got my kids' names, but like my first tattoo, it lived. The design lived in my wallet for about 2 years. I did. It was like mid 2000s when stars had become massively popular in England. Even though I was living in Spain, and I took the convention, which probably again is actually like an Eastern European symbol, like in the underworld of the star with the striped half black, half white, but what I did is I took, instead of having the line and having half the star, half of it black, I turned it into flames, into chopper flames, and so I have a star, I have an 8-ball, the 8-ball being like massively into playing pool. I was in my teens. I got dice, and I got spanners behind it all, and I got 13 in one, 7 in the other. Obviously, 13 being like the most superstitious number, 7 being a lucky number. But what I did in the dice, when I told my Argentinian friend about it, he says you need to do it this way. So I have the front faces of the dice adding up to 7. And then I have if you add up all the faces, because obviously they're like traditional 3D style, Americana style dice, they all add up to 13. And many people said to me, like, why, like obviously my Spanish friends, for example, why have you got 13 and 7? And I said, look, how do you know, like 13? And I explained, obviously 13 is an unlucky number, 7 is, I deem it lucky. And they said, like, well, what does it mean? I said, well, how do you know if you've ever been unlucky, if you've never been lucky, or vice versa? And it's crazy because like 15 years later, like I've experienced that whole life. And this is one thing that I originally got into tattoos because I thought they were cool. And then what I realized is like tattoos simply tell a story. And then obviously this is even before I even started learning how to tattoo. It's like, it's just crazy that 13 years later, I've experienced this literally luck and unluck, and even down to the podcast. So like in my hand, I've got a pocket watch, and I got a question mark, right? And the main meaning is you never know when your time's up. But I wanted it to be a famous chopper builder called Indian Larry, who was like the Discovery Channel biker build-off champion, and like so many people were like mesmerized by his style. Not just because of the way he built the bikes, but his outlook on life. And like, he passed away in 2004. But like, I remember being like 12, 13-year-old kid sat watching Discovery Channel with my dad thinking, this is fucking cool as fuck. And then fast forward to like, I'm 22 years old, 23, I got my hand tattooed. And then I got Larry's question mark in there, and it had to be his logo. It had to be the circular, very exaggerated question mark with the Maltese cross at the bottom, which is it's Indian Larry's logo. But then only back in the back end of December, I got to interview his business partner, which for me was like incredible because
No way.
So I got to interview a guy called Bobby from New York, and like it's just this is kind of what's so magical for me for tattooing is they simply tell a story. Like I got his logo because I thought the dude was cool as fuck, and it had two meanings for me. But then all of a sudden, by being a guy that sat in the corner of my front room, waffling on to people like yourself all around the world, I got to connect as close as possible to, because this guy has carried on Indian Larry's legacy. You know, he owns the shop in New York. It's called Indian Larry Motorcycles. And he has always been Larry's business partner. But kind of like a long story short, is like, that's what's so cool. Is like, I have it on my hand, you know, and I'm able to get
7
as close
handshakes.
do you know what I mean? Like, it's so fucking cool, man. Like,
You know, there is a theory of 7 handshakes that we can connect to everyone in the world through 7 handshakes. So you can, like, how crazy it is. Like, imagine you sitting there, you know, in your house now, and technically you can connect to someone who will, I don't know, like, will mine a lighthouse somewhere, like, deep in Siberia. You get me? You, like, through the 7
crazy.
handshakes, through 7 different people, you can connect him. If you literally have this, you know, need to do that, how crazy is that? But like, how different it is now when, you know, you can literally just DM someone and just get to know them.
You know, and this is like what I found so incredible with the podcast is like, yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously before we went live, is it started off me broadcasting live because I'm shit with technology, but even though now I know how to record and edit a podcast, and don't get me wrong, not that anyone's commented today, but I still feel it's important for me to keep them live because I think, for example, I massively believe in the fact that if there's somebody that was to be watching this and wanted to learn how to tattoo, and they were maybe nervous of going into a studio and, you know, nervous on taking their first steps, and kind of feeling like if this was their way to ask somebody who tattoos professionally at a very high standard, not necessarily asking you tips and tricks and techniques, but be able to ask you, you know, how would I go about doing an apprenticeship? Like, there's no point asking me because, like, I'm self-taught. I've got all the bad habits, and, you know, it's kind of still frowned upon the way I went into tattooing and did apprenticeship. But the point being is, if there was to have been somebody, it's really important for me to be able to still keep this live element and give people the opportunity to ask questions if they wanted to, and, you know what I mean? It's kind of like not selling out, right? It's like not selling out on my mission, on my on kind of what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, man. It's all about, you know, it's all about talking. It's all about, you know, connecting to the people, isn't it? It's like sometimes people are afraid. Sometimes people have these, like, I call them magic glasses on their eyes, thinking that, yeah, I mean, it's so simple. You just watch a few, few interviews, few like podcasts or few videos, you know, on the like tutorial videos on the YouTube, and you will get into it. It's not as easy, and I don't think it's supposed to be that easy. You know, like, I think that unfortunately there's like a lot of tattooists that never went. I don't necessarily mean like through some shit, but like, for me, for example, you know, like, tattooing is the best job I ever had. Like, I do not imagine myself doing anything else, you know, like, as cool as this. But like, in order to deserve it, in order to get there, you have to go through some, you know, not suffering. Well, like, you need to dedicate yourself fully.
You got to earn your stripes, so to speak.
And then you know, these days people think that, you know, all you need to do is just buy yourself a machine on, you know, Amazon or, you know, anywhere.
Yeah.
Open few tutorials. It's not only about, again, it's like, even though we were talking previously about, you know, the skill that you can achieve, and this is a simple thing, but like the attitude to work, even though it's, you know, it's a fun job, but it's still a job. And I had a few people, like few wannabe apprentices, few wannabe tattooists that, you give them a homework to do. When I was in the studio, when I was an apprentice, I had to do a homework. Yeah. I had to draw stuff. So like I would get into the studio with like some, designs that I did. And the reason behind it is like, so I would sit there all day watching my mentor tattooing. And then like after he finishes, after I clean everything for him, he would sit, look at the designs, and we would go through the mistakes, like he would correct me or what he would think is right or wrong. We would work on the designs itself. But like when I did ask, apprentices, like, oh, do me some homework, like draw me some designs, and they come back and they're like, oh, sorry, I wasn't feeling like it. Like,
Yeah.
what you mean you didn't feel like it? Well, imagine you have a client that, waited for like 3 months, like he booked in with you for 3 months, paid you a deposit, paid you money. It was like had to take a day off, sold his kids so somebody would mind his or her kids, comes all over, and you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't feel it. How is it gonna work? Like, do you seriously believe that they will come back to you? Like, you need to be serious about what you're doing. It's not, at the end of the day, it's not a joke. You're not just, putting some scribbles on somebody's skin. Like you can ruin somebody's life. You can improve it, by the great tattoo, or you can ruin it. It works both ways. And if you're not serious, or if you're not paying attention, and if you're not responsible for what you're doing, if for you it's just a joke, it's just, a fancy lifestyle, you kind of like a scratcher, aren't you? Then, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It is one of them things.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, so I don't do color, and people say like, well, why don't you do color? You could do black and gray. And I'm like, well, color's a different ball game. I mean, the knack of putting color in, and like, this isn't me. I'm not chatting shit on artists. Like I've seen some incredible color that's left studios, and 6 months later, it's like, oh, who did that? And they're like, well, I did that. And I'm like, really? Because it's like, obviously we are at the mercy of how the clients want to look after them as well. I said, but however, when it comes to color, like there's a knack to it, man. And I would say that there are less artists that are really good at it than there are good at it. Like, but maybe to me, like, it's fucking hell, my sign's falling down, man. Shit. Sorry, but maybe to me, maybe my expectations are just unrealistic with color. But that's why I don't do it, because like for me, I think if it's gonna go in solid, it has to look solid 6 months later, you know.
I started, when I started tattooing, I used to do colors. Like I didn't do colors only. I would still mostly aim towards like black and gray, just because I think, like when you do black and gray, you're thinking more of a light and shadow. When you do colors, you think more of the tones. You don't work with like the depth. You work with the tones, like light tones, dark tones. You work with warm against cold tones, etc., etc. And my brain was never like good at it. I'm mostly like, I'm a graphic. Yeah, I do mostly work as a graphic, like, and ideally I would like to get into the point when I would only do, like my graphical stuff. So not even realism. Like I'm not a huge fan of, like black and gray realism. I like it on, and to the certain extent, but I like to mix stuff, and I do prefer graphic. I mean, it's a win-win situation, like this is the stuff forever, because you have solid line, you have solid blocks of color, you pack, or not color, the black, you pack it. But yeah, I used to do colors, but then the amount of problems, you get, like, it's time. So client comes to you and he, you have to explain, like, look, A4 black and gray will take me so much time. A4 color will take me like 3 times this time. Then on top of it, you can have allergic reaction on some certain colors. One color gets in easy, another one is not getting easy. And you're like, oh my God, it's just so much of, like it's a different block of information, completely different. And I decided that, if I do colors, I would only do more of a neutral sort of approach when you have a solid color, when you don't sort of work into like color realism sort of a point, when it's more like you have a block of color, you feel it, you pack it there solid, that's the stuff that will stay there. And by no means I'm not saying that, I'm not against colorful tattoos. It's just not how my brain works. I've seen where our manager, he has some amazing colors, done by the Polish artist. He flies to Poland. His friend does the tattoos for him, and his colors look incredible.
Who is it?
He has them for like 10 over years, and they still bright, as if they were done a few weeks ago. But then you meet an artist.
Who does them?
Sorry?
Who tattoos your manager?
I think, as far as I remember, it's Thomas. Can't remember his surname. Sorry.
Okay.
Tom Sugar.
Okay.
Tom Sugar it is. Like his colors. Like I think he now mostly does black and gray, but like his colors on our manager. Oh my God, they still look amazing. But then at the same time, you see people that had their tattoos done like year ago, half a year ago, and they look faded as hell, man. Like you look at it, and you're like, wow.
And that's the thing, right? Is like obviously, and like this certainly isn't us talking about shitting on artists, because equally there are incredible color artists that they've done one client and the next day they've done a different client, and coming down to how the client looks after them, it's like I did half an arm, October, November time. I did like he's got like an angel wing going up the side of his arm, and then he's got like playing cards that drop underneath the angel wing, and he's got the laugh now, cry later faces. I did like a cigar coming out the mouth, and I did like Joaquin Phoenix Joker, half like disformed skull, like all in the same image. And I asked the owner how it was healing. He said he'd seen it, and he said, "Oh, it's okay." And I'm like, and I said, "Have you got a picture of it?" And I saw it, and I said to the guy, I'm like, when he came in to finish off, I was like, "What the fuck have you done to your arm?" And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Man," I said, "like, it's fucked. Like, you could see it, you know better than me. Like, you could see it dried out. You could tell because it's dried out, and he's just fucking pulled loads of ink out with it." And I'm like, "What the fuck have you done to this tattoo, man?" I'm like, "You've just spent all this money."
It's a huge aspect as well, isn't it? Like, if you did a good job, good tattoo, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, they forget about it. They forget about you. When you do a great tattoo and you're like, please, man, pop into the studio a few weeks after, because I really want to take a photo of this project. I hate to take a photos of the tattoos that, like you have a few days on this tattoo and then you have like half of it healed, half of it fresh. Just never looks right.
Yeah.
And you ask them to pop in. If everything is fine, they forget about you. They never get back.
Yeah.
But then if something is wrong, it's your fault. I had a case when I was tattooing. Yeah, I tattooed this girl, and she was like, "Oh yeah, like my birthday or something like that, like some sort of a party coming up, and we're finishing her piece. She's in pain. She's not really doing well with it. Like not going through the pain much." But I was like excited about this piece. I was looking forward to it. It's like one of my favorite tattoos. Did it, and literally I finished the piece and I'm like, I can't wait for her to get back to me, so I can take a decent photo. Man, same day she posted the photo how she sits in a hot tub in Wales, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I literally tattooed your thigh like a couple of hours ago, and you sucking it into the hot tub, sitting there with another dude, like another people. You don't know what they have. Like, if someone of them will, like, wee in the fucking tub there, like, what the hell are you doing? Hell. And then you're like, but then if this won't heal, whose fault is going to be?
Yep.
Is it going to be my fault or hers? But it's one of them things. It's always like that.
Well, that's it, right? And it's like, it's interesting you say that, because like, and you probably hear the same story, probably hear it like I do. Like, you get people, I wouldn't go and get one of these tattoos in Magaluf or Ibiza. They're shit tattooists. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, hang on a minute. I said, the only thing that artist has done wrong is accept your cash and tattoo you whilst you're under the influence of drugs and alcohol. I said, to be honest, half these artists are fucking incredible tattooists. I said, it's wrong that they are tattooing you when you are drunk and whatever. I said, but at the end of the day, wrong or right, they're making a living. So they're not telling
You
you
know
to
what?
go and sit on the
Imagine
beach.
how these artists. Imagine how most of these artists, on these like touristy places, how they feel themselves. Imagine knowing that you are capable to do some bang on jobs, like bang on work, like amazing stuff.
Yeah,
But yet you sit in the studio, and you focus on the walk-in kind of a drunk, clients that like get there to do like a pickle rig or like random name, on their ass cheek,
yeah,
and they will forget
yeah.
about it within a second. Like hour after they get out of a studio, they will be swimming in the in the sea somewhere, or like
That's it, innit?
grouping their
And
asses against some shit. You're like, fuck's sake, what the hell am I doing
yeah.
wrong with my life? Like, where did I
Yeah,
turn
and
wrong?
unfortunately, when the thing is, like, obviously, they're clearly there taking the money because, like, the reality is just they're fucking going to be killing. I mean, you hear about how much they pay for like Magaluf 2024. It's like I paid €90 for this. You're like, what the fuck? It's like
Took him
three-round
10
lineup
minutes to do
Magaluf, 10 minutes. Yeah,
with a
but
ciggy break.
at the end. Yeah, exactly right. But unfortunately, the artist is obviously, for whatever reason, he's maybe fallen out of love with tattooing, or simply just needs a lot of cash very quickly. And I suppose as an artist, you've possibly a little bit sold your soul a little bit, to kind of just get the money. But who knows, right? Who knows what they're going through at that time? I mean, like you say, and that's what I say to people. I'm like, you can't chat shit on these guys. I mean, like yourself, you can look through their portfolio, or you can look at, and you're like, there's no way they're like to do a 3-round line and Magaluf is not the easiest thing. Like, like single pass solid. I mean, obviously, that. Like, and I say to people, like, because when I first started learning tattoo, they're like, oh, tattoo my kid's name on me. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, doing solid lines, curving like fucking like this style of shit, like it's not easy. And they're like, well, why isn't it you just doing lines? I said, well, the fact is like I when I was learning, I'm like, I don't get the contour of that H right. It's gonna look like a fucking F, or I don't get the contour of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but a lot of people don't understand that sometimes, and that's why I personally, I don't really do, like a traditional, just not my vibe. I came from more of a, like graphic design, graffiti sort of a industry. So like I think in a bit of a different way. But I do adore these, old school kind of a classical tattoos, because imagine like how simple it is. You fuck up one line, nobody will, it will be spotted. Like you have three lines there, and one of these lines is wobbly. You fucked. Like that's it. You won't be able to hide it. Like with realism, when you do realism, you put you put the tattoo in layers. You do it with the layers, and you have an option to fix the mistake if you have any. Let's be honest. Like, oh, you went over the line. You're like, oh shit, whatever. You just do a bit of a less shading there later on. It's easier. The more details, the more complicated tattoo looks, the easier it is. Yes, you need to spend time on it, but if we only talk about technical aspect, it's easy. Quite often, the simple things are actually harder to do. And a good example is try to tattoo a perfect circle on the skin.
Yeah.
That's like, that's the pain in the ass for every single artist. Because if you think about it, it's just literally a circle. That's it. Like I personally, I've been tattooing for 10 years. Every time I have to do a circle, I'm like, fuck. Like I need to pay attention over here. I need to make sure that, client is not moving. I'm not breathing, like everything runs smoothly. Make sure that the needle is sharp enough. Everything's supposed to be perfect to do this circle. And yet you're still going to get nervous. When I get to do, I don't know, bloody, Marilyn Manson portrait, I'm like, easy. You get me? Like I'm not afraid of it, because I know that I have so much room for mistake. And then the difference between a good tattooer and a bad tattooer, if I see a mistake, I know how to fix it. And we all do mistakes. Let's be honest. Like every single tattoo does a mistake. It's a human factor. But then good ones can fix them, can hide them. Yeah. But then for the old school, for the traditional, no options. For this one line stuff, you have no option. If your line is not straight, you fucked. You there. It will be visible.
Yeah, I mean, I did a buck pin 5-round liner, single line around someone's wrist, and like I felt like I'd won the fucking lottery, man. When I finished it, like it was like there was no evidence of
Sweating.
stopping, starting, mate. I was like, fuck. I was like, this is on, this is on. I'm like, shit the bed, man. And
Yeah, I know
and
that
and I
feeling. I
finished
know
it,
that
and
feeling.
I was like, this is. I was like, I felt like a fucking rock star, man. I was like, yes, you know.
And the
But
worst thing
yeah, it's
for the
crazy.
client is like, why you so happy? I'm like, you don't understand. You know, you literally don't understand. You do you know you have this like a really difficult element on on the tattoo, and you get to it, and you did it. And you're like, fuck's sake, yes, I did it. And you're like,
Yeah,
yes, now we're rolling. Now like I'm superstar now, as you said. Yeah, the
yeah,
client looks at you like, what happened with you? Like you were so calm before that, and then like now you're happy. Like, yeah, the fact that I was calm to you is it's not really how I actually was. I was
yeah,
nervousing
yeah.
until that little moment.
That's it, man. I mean, I had one guy come in and he wanted a line from his fucking wrist to the to the top of his shoulder, and I mean, I managed to get out of it. I'm like, I don't think this is a cool idea, and he's like, I want it, I want it. So, well, I was like, you're gonna have to go and see one of the other guys because I was like, there's no fucking way I'm doing a single fucking like 7 round liner all the way up this dude's arm, up to his fucking like top of his collarbone, like on the ditch of his neck. I'm like, so I'm not doing it. And I was like, obviously, I'm not going to just freak out and go, oh, I'm not doing it. I was just like, well, yeah, I don't think it's going to look good. And he's like, no, 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 I want this line. And I'm like, well, to be honest, the other guy, that's more his style. So I'm like, am I fuck doing this single line, man, up this guy's arm? Like, you know what I mean?
Definitely. Like,
But that's it. Like, I won't, to be honest, like when I say to people, I'm like, if you're in tattooing, like kind of going back to like what you said, is like people don't see what's going on behind the scenes when you're at home, when you're hand drawing stencils, or even like if I ever do like a portrait style piece, I typically hand draw my stencils.
same.
Just because I kind of feel that it's a lot more organic, like
It
the human
prepares you as
hand.
well.
Yeah, like maps it out in your head as well, doesn't it? But but like I say to people, like if you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason because like the money is not gonna come, and that's why I turn away color because it's like I can't do color. Like at the end of the day, I'm not prepared to fuck your arm up or your leg. It's not that I'm gonna fuck it. It's just I'm not prepared for you to walk away with a tattoo that literally is not like it's supposed to 6 months later. Just because I know that honestly I can't put in them tones of color how they need to be put in. You know, it's fucking crazy. So for you, who have you got as a tattooist out there that you've seen that's mind blowing? Like fucking how the fuck do they do that?
So, you see, I don't really have a tattooist. Like, how to explain it better? I always try not to be obsessed with someone because I feel like when I do really, really fall in love with the dude's, work, somewhere like subconsciously, I try to copy it. Like
Right.
something in your head tries to kind of like, let's repeat this stuff. So I always try to
I
push
mean,
myself
I would say
away from like going too far. But
okay.
my favorite, like I actually still have, few that I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, wow, like they are like if I would ever have a chance, I would like these persons to tattoo me. For
Yeah.
example, there is a dude. I think he's Brazilian, Fredao Oliveira. I don't know if
Oh
I
yeah.
pronounce it properly because obviously I don't speak Portuguese. But oh my god, he's like he does sort of a single line, not single line, but it's like very graphical. It almost looks like he drew it up with a pen on you, with a
Yeah.
bit of a whip shading or stipple shading, whatever it's
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
these days. But when I look at his pieces, I'm like, I do not understand how can you do that with just simple line. That's crazy, crazy
Yeah.
good. Fredao Oliveira, amazing dude.
Yeah. But I think is
Also,
he has a YouTube channel as well. I think, doesn't he? I think he does a lot of time lapse work on YouTube.
probably
If
time.
that's the
Like I've
same,
seen
if
his
that's
time
the same
lapses. I'm
guy.
not sure if he has a YouTube or not. I follow him on Instagram.
Right.
Uh, then, for example, Timur Lysenko, he's amazing as well. Like I think he's based in Poland. He's not Polish though. He's definitely somewhere from like East Europe. I'm not too sure where he's from. I will actually, I'm actually gonna scroll through my Instagram right now to tell you like first things that come. I will tell you. Like I have, I follow quite a few. Timur Lysenko is great. I like his like abstract stuff. He does a lot of, I would say, like East European culture, like urbanistic kind of with a bit of a trippy effects. I mean, there's plenty of them. There's if we're talking about realism, Silvano Fiato, Pasquale, he's amazing. I mean, Italians. I think that when it comes to the black and gray realism, I mean, nobody can beat Italians. Like crazy cool, like crazy. Cool.
I mean, like for me, the first time I ever saw Bob Tyrrell tattooing on YouTube, like I mean, I was like early.
We don't even discuss Bob Tyrrell and these era of tattooers. This is a different different level. They're like gods of ink. You get me? He's like a life legend.
Well, I think exactly. I think like the legendary side of it. Obviously, we've obviously unfortunately just lost Jack Rudy. And obviously he fundamentally he shaped what I recognize as black and gray tattooing. And I say to people, like, if you're not going to at least do the apprenticeship, do the right way, like I did, at least do like I didn't do, at least do what I did was like, it takes you 2 hours to sit down and watch Tattoo Nation on Amazon Prime. Like you're gonna learn the fundamental cause of black and gray tattooing. Like go on YouTube and watch some history, because like you said, it's like, I'm well aware that getting the wrong tattoo in Eastern Europe is gonna fucking potentially even kill you. Like, and like you say, I haven't traveled the world in the tattoo culture, but however, I respect the scene enough to turn down a tattoo that I can't do, and I also respect the scene enough to kind of know the history, the fundamentals of where tattooing is kind of become mainstream. I mean. Like you say, obviously, just sitting and watching Tattoo Nation, it gives you a massive insight into the world of black and gray prison, like where making inks from burning paper, from mixing it with baby oil, from making your home machines.
I mean, I wouldn't take it as an example. It's nice to know it, to avoid the problems potentially, but don't take it as example. Don't learn from it, because the fact that tattooing in East Europe started with a criminal has to go. I mean. It did slow us down big time. Like if we're talking about, when I was 18, when I was still back in Latvia, I did truly look at Europe and be like, oh wow, there's so many amazing artists there, while we have none, because tattooing was not acceptable. I still to these days, well, before I forget, before we move too far away from it, when it comes to, let's say, Japanese aspect, Max Titanic, Russian tattoo artist, he's absolutely amazing. Or something a bit more of a Japanese with a bit of a modern twist to it. I don't know the styles these days, but let's say NBK Tattoo, Dmitry Naboka, he's tattooing in Germany. Amazing artists, and they both work in colors, and the colors and the shapes, how complicated everything is, the size is amazing. But what I was talking about. I wanted to move somewhere. But I mean, when we used to look at these, tattoo artists in Europe, we were like, wow, they're so amazing. And we had nothing. And then, to these days, when I get home, to visit a family and stuff, like I do have a looks, people look at me like, oh shit, he's covered in the tattoos. Like he must be a criminal. It changes. But you still get, an old look here and there. And I blame it on the fact that it started with a criminal, with the criminal tattooing over there. So people still have this like narrow-minded aspect. It's changed in UK, obviously. You have a tattoo, nobody cares. I've been served in the bank, by the person who had sleeves in Latvia. I think, to see that, I'd be like shocked. I would be shocked. Over here, it became like more.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like for me, like going back to like what attracted me to tattooing was that outlaw rebellious side to it. Like I think it's great for the industry that it's become mainstream, but however, I also think it's I also kind of miss that whole like that dark side to tattooing, because I think like at the end of the day, like there's something just almost poetic about that whole dark side to tattooing, just because like
You reminded
typically,
me. There was a stand-up comedy. The Dan Soder had a line about tattooing. He's like, if you're over 80 and you have a faded anchor on your forearm, like, no way this man saw death. Like, I'm not fucking with him. If you like,
yeah,
under 20 and you have like, full sleeve of seaweed, taking an hour to explain what it's made for, like, I don't care. Like, I'm not afraid of
no,
you. I don't care. Like, I do
no,
definitely I agree with you to the certain extent that, you see, outlaw culture and rebellion culture in a way over here of tattooing was a little bit different. It was differently approached. It was more of a,
yeah,
like, I know the rules and I stand against them.
yeah,
Criminal
exactly.
tattoo back home was more of a, back in East Europe, was more of a showing off how bad I am, like how terrible
Yeah,
of a person I
what
am,
you've
and I don't
done.
care what
Yeah,
you
what?
think. You get me? Like, so for example, um the Orthodox Church in Russia, they do
Yeah,
like churches on their backs, and each tower means like a year you spent in a jail and things like that. And so
yeah,
you're showing off how many years you've spent in a jail. You're showing it to the world, and you'd be proud
yeah,
of it to the extent, like,
yeah,
um I I don't understand how you can be proud of being a criminal. And I mean, obviously, we all
yeah,
get a different path, and we all go through the different route. And
yeah,
I'm not innocent. I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not saying by no means. I did some things I'm not proud of, but in general, like being proud of you killing someone, like I guess that's why this type of
yeah,
American culture, for me, I cannot accept it. I don't understand how you can be like 15 years old kid, and you're like, what, I'm gonna kill you. I don't care. It's like,
yeah,
we human beings, 21st century, come on, to wake up. The
yeah,
only
exactly.
way
And
that turned us into the human beings from the monkeys is the fact that we started to work together, and we started to develop some sorts of social connections. And you
yeah,
want to get back into these animal kind of a aspect of life, when you just like, I don't care about your life. It's pointless for me. So in a way,
yeah,
I'm kind of in a bit of a between two
yeah,
lines, when I'm like, yeah, there was a bit of a, you had to deserve your tattoos. They did had some certain meaning, but
yeah.
and now it's
And
like,
that's
yeah,
and
if you
that's
have a roses, I'm not afraid of you.
no, exactly right. And that's kind of like I said, like there's this poetic, like this poet, because like poetic is like this magical delusion in your head of like this romance of something that you put together in your head, and the point being is like, I don't know, man, like I kind of feel that like someone that I know that's prepared to do what needs to be done, or at least you can't you know where you stand with them. And I think that that's like, if we're going to look at society, like that's the truth, is like we don't know where we stand with people, like people don't even know what they fucking identify as anymore. And that's obviously
Oh yeah,
not that we're going to go
100%.
down that go not that we're going to go down that whole avenue and crazy fucking that's not what this podcast is about, but kind of going back to that old school mentality of like what
It was
tattoo
simple.
meant back in the day. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
It was
and
simple to the
but
extent,
yeah,
you used to know what to expect. You could see a person, you could read him. you know he wouldn't even talk to you, but you could read him. Like, you would see what he wears, how he walks, what he has as a status. You would know his story by just looking at him. And now it's
yeah,
all mixed up. It's all like, too much of a eclectic. It's everything like, like you can have a client, like a person that will have like, Arab writing, Chinese kanji symbols, something else. He will have like purple hairs, mohawk, and then have like a white pants, like the rappers in '90s used to wear. And you're like, I
yeah,
cannot
yeah, yeah,
read you anymore. It's not as simple anymore. You get me? It's
yeah.
complicated. Um,
And don't get me
yeah, I
wrong,
mean,
there's
that
obviously
was the
there's
cool
nothing
stuff
wrong with that
about
either.
back in the days. You knew what to expect. Like, if you would walk
Yeah,
down the street and you see like, few people standing there, you could read them from the distance and think like, oh, are they dangerous for me or not? Are they going to beat
yeah,
me or will shake my hand? Now it's a bit like, I don't know what to. Nobody knows.
Yeah. No, exactly. And again, obviously, there's absolutely nothing. Like I say, for the industry, it's great. In a financial aspect, is obviously you're gonna get a lawyer come in, you're gonna get a police officer, like you said, then you're gonna get a tech guru who's made billions. That's obviously for you relying on it as your full-time income. That's great. I mean, I'd love nothing more to say that I'm able to just go and tattoo some dudes in an outlaw club, MC club, motorcycle club, But obviously, it's like you say, it's great. The industry is great in the respect of what it's become. It's the highest paid of commissioned art form, a salary, like earning money wise,
In average, yeah, I guess so. But it's like how to kind of reply to that in a better way. It's nice to tattoo. I like the fact that it's way more acceptable, and a lot of people from absolutely different backgrounds get it. I'm by no means not against it. Obviously, I do love it because you get to see these people, you get to talk to them, and new stories are amazing. But it has a minuses as well, because it became so acceptable and so popular. The amount of absolute random and weird stuff that you do as well, or like basic. I think the basic became like that's what bugs me the most. Like I remember the time when you used to be like, if I would get a tattoo, I would want it to be one off. Yeah. Like I actually have a few tattoos on me that I had to cover because I would see them on the internet. So when my tattoo artist would say, "Oh, I drew up something for you," and then like a few weeks later or a few years later, I see them in the internet, so I understand that he just took them from there. And I remember the time when you used to have to draw everything like from the scratch. And to be fair, I think it's the same problem with traditional as well. If you look at the traditional, we all have like these like respect for the traditional tattoos, but like let's be honest, they're not much different. They all, not all of them, but it's hard to stand out in the classic, in the traditional. Like most of them look identical. So because of the style, like it has frames. But when it comes to the majority of tattoos, people just get the same shit from each other. Like it used to be like you had to be one-off unique, like tattooist. You had to do one-off unique piece. But nowadays, people, I'm not talking about everyone by no means, but quite a lot of people just want the same shit that everyone have. And that's, I guess, it comes with, the fact that it became so popular. So some people, we still have a lot of clients that want to have unique pieces one-off, and it's, that's when your day is amazing. But when you need to, when you have a client that wants, a lion with the blue eyes, or a wolf with a forest, that's when you're like, please, somebody shoot me. Or when when you have a client that wants a full sleeve of Greek mythology, but he don't know the Greek mythology, and when you ask them like, so which gods do you want? I used to study this shit in university. Like I read Greek mythology for my kid, before he used to go to bed instead of fairy tales, because I love this shit. And when you ask him like, oh, what gods do you want? He's like, I don't care, do whatever. Like you literally getting a full sleeve of stuff that you have no ideas about. Like, why? Like there is no need for it. Then that's what do I do it? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. We all have to earn
but
money.
obviously you do the
But then
best.
it's just sad that people don't think about their tattoos anymore, as much. It would be nice if people would think, oh, no.
Yeah, people like research your artists, like, and they'll, for example, I'll get someone come to me and I'm like, we'll talk about designs and that, and I'm like, you need to research your artists, and they go, oh, well, I picked you. I'm like, but you haven't researched what I do, because you're trying to ask me to do color. You look through my Instagram page and you see there's no color. Like, like when I had my arm done, like this is all Sharpie penned. Like, this is 12-year-old work. It's like it's all Sharpie penned. Like literally, I sat down and he, he's G, this man in York, he's been tattooing like probably close to a good 20 years. Like, has a very old school, solid, honest approach to tattooing, bold lines, dark saturation, and shading. And it was like, it was like, what we doing? And I'm like, well, man, I want old school hot rod, rock and roll, like pistons. Like I got like the piston there. I got obviously like a rev gauge here. And I got my skull on the top. But this stuff's like my hand's single pass, never been reworked. It's 12-year-old solid, honest tattooing, and like I said, kind of going into the whole like the more you look, the more you see. Like in my rev gauge, it redlines to 13, important to me. And then underneath, instead of having like the old analog numbers, like the speed, like the mileage, I have my missus nickname. And what's really cool is like no one notices it's there until I show them. I'm like, this actually says Lottie, and because I told him, I said I want it doing in a way that's very analog, and there's just very, very personal touches to me, but that's what I think so incredible. Like to like, I would never fucking just pick up a Sharpie pen and just start drawing all over my client's arm. Like, first of all, they couldn't afford it. Like, it'd take me a day just to draw the fucking thing. Like, I'm slow as fuck. Like, it's like, but I respected massively, man. Like, and if you know what I mean, like to be able to just draw off the top of your head straight onto someone's skin is incredible.
Well, I'm not talking about not like necessarily, drawing on the skin, which is amazing. I mean, for me, that's like a peak of tattooing when person can just, afford, because obviously, we live in, in the country where people don't have, much money. Let's be honest. It's hard to afford just sitting whole day for like, somebody to draw on you, and then like maybe if you're lucky, they will have enough time to, like do the ref lines, and that's it. You go, and then you have to pay them. But at least, when like give me a chance to draw it on the paper, and then when you come, I will apply it on you as a stencil. It would be so much better for most people. You get me? It just makes more sense, but people don't want to do it. I'm not talking about everyone, by no means.
No, like you say, when you have them clients,
it becomes a bit like more and more and more of that. We see more of these type of people that just like, I don't care. I just want to do the same thing that, Pinterest has. Same thing that everyone has. Like, it becomes a bit of from the point when it used to be, you stand out with your stuff to like you fit into the group of the same people, so that's around you.
Yeah.
Which is
exactly.
I mean, it has a minuses as well.
Yeah, like you say, it's obviously like we get them clients. It's incredible. I mean, I got a couple of people that I've tattooed in the past, and like, just do what you want, and I'm like, I can't just do what I want. Like, it's your skin. Do you know what I mean? They're like, no, do what you want, and I'm like, yeah, but just give me an idea of the direction. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I had a few cases when, like I have a client that comes in and is like, oh, I trust your style. Like, I love your stuff. Do whatever you want. I'm like, man, you don't want to. Like, believe me, if I will draw what I want on you, it will be too dark for you. And they're like, yes, I don't care, man. Just go for it. And you do a design, and they're like, yeah, man, that's too scary for me. Like, well, I told you, like, tell me what you want. Do your research. I don't want you to. Like, do your research as if like think about something outside the box. Don't get into the Google and type in, best tattoo for man or woman, whatever. Think about your life. Think about what attracts you, what you love truly. Like, don't send me references of another tattoos. Like, I don't want to see another tattoos as my reference. Like, I want you to sit and think what you want to get, and I will make the design that will fit perfectly for you. I don't want to get into someone else's works and be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to copy this shit. That's not how it's supposed to be done.
No, exactly.
Also, and like, you see, the problem is when person looks at the tattoo and he likes this tattoo, subconsciously he wants to copy. He wants this tattoo. He don't want another thing. He don't want something else or something that will be based on it. He wants this exact tattoo. So no matter how many times you will do design, they will be like, oh, can you do it exactly how I send it to you? And you're like, I don't want to. I mean, I can't, but I
No.
don't want to. Like, I want to do a unique
No.
piece that you will be happy with, and I will be able to add to my portfolio. A lot of people don't want to, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that's like going back to when my guy tattooed started my sleeve. It's like I just knew I wanted a skull. I knew I wanted like an old school style skull, but in black and gray. I knew I wanted like my conrods. You can't see them at that angle, but like the conrods, which is the connecting part of the engine. I said to him, I said, I want them to look like. I said, I don't want them to look mechanical, like machined. I want them to be broken bone. Like. And you can't really see it, but I'll just fucking show you after. But it was important that it looked like, instead of being very sharp, where the bolts go through the big end to connect the big end of the conrod, they're rounded off. They got like the element almost like bone. They're curved. It's like that's. I said to him, I said, I want them to look like bone, but I want like, you know what I mean. I said, I want a flag, like a checkered flag going through. I want like outline flames, And so I gave him enough references, you know what I mean? And then we did like an image, which is on the inside here. It's like a crazy, like a smile, like almost like a smiling face, but he's a bit crazy. He's got drool dripping from his mouth. He's got a cigar hanging out of his mouth. And I was like, that represents me. Like, as in, if you were to try and put me into a random image, that's me, like I'm a bit fucking crazy, I'm a bit like, type of shit. And he just ran with it, man. He just fucking ran with it. And it's like cool as fuck. I ran out of money, basically. I would be covered. The only place I don't want tattooing is my face. Like, I want all my head doing. I want all my neck doing. The only place I'm not interested in my face. I think that's just one place that you can kind of just, I respect face tattoos. I've done them.
I do.
But I
was like that. I was like that until last year's. I think. Last year, I was like, yeah, I have an idea for a face tattoo. But I did promise to my missus that I'm not gonna do my face until I'm fully covered, like fully.
Right.
And the thing that I would like to do is like a little bit with white ink, so it wouldn't be like straight in your face. It would be just literally one white line.
Right. Yeah, I know someone has just had some like lightning bolts coming off almost off their ear. They go across down the side of the face. I mean, like I said, I think they look cool. I think they look cool as fuck. Just not for me. Like I had one of my friends. He never been tattooed, and he was like, "Josh, can you tattoo me?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be an honor to tattoo you." And it's like, "I've seen this turbo," and I'm like, "Oh, that's sick." And he's like, "I want it on my hand." I'm like, "Nope." And he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "You don't understand." I said, like obviously we have our hand done. I said, even in today's society, I said, hand finger tattoos. I said, they are a lifestyle commitment. And they're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You don't get it." I said, "You think you're ready to go into a bank, even though it is accepted. You're still going to have your hand stared at. Like, there are still going to be a handful of people that aren't going to want to take cash off you or aren't going to want to shake your hand." I said, "Don't get me wrong, the majority of us have changed." I said, "But you think you're ready for it." I said, "Start off normally, get your forearm tattooed or get a tattoo." Like, I had my first one on my stomach. I said, start normal. I said, going in for the hands to me just says, "Look at me. I'm here to prove a point." That's what it says to me anyway.
I only accept hands. Like, I had quite a few clients with hands, and I was like, "No, not doing it. If you don't have a sleeve to connect it to, no go for me." And the only way we can do hands at the beginning, before we start the rest of a sleeve, is like, if I know that like I will tattoo you today on your hand, and a few days after I will start the forearm. Like, I know that you will you will get it regularly. Because to be honest, when you do start a sleeve, it's better to start it from the bottom and go up, because everything at the bottom is like the first one, and then everything goes behind. The higher you go, the more like behind it goes. But I mean, hand is either at the end of the sleeve, or when I know that you will get into it like straight away, like into the forearm. That's the only way. You won't even believe, it's impossible to count how many people I had like asking for the face, necks, hands, like 19 years old kids, have nothing there. You're like, come on, man. You don't want to have your hand tattooed on its own, because you will look like you wear Michael Jackson's gloves, on the distance, you will look silly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like with mine, like we did the skull on the top of my forearm first, and the skull and the pistons, and then the second session was the rev gauge, the crazy character dude, and my hand. And to be honest, originally I drew a watch, like a normal watch, and my artist said, "Look, there's just way too much detail. You're trying to get into such a small space." He was like, "Have you thought about the hand?" And obviously, going back to like 2011, 2012. Hand tattoos, and you can probably agree, hand tattoos wasn't everyone having them, and that was kind of me saying, like, I call myself like a sophisticated, polite rebel, because like I'm polite to everybody, but at the end of the day, I know what I like, and I don't care if I don't fit into society. At the end of the day, if you're willing to judge me for what you think, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to disrespect you, but I don't care. And that literally was kind of like how, going back to that sophisticated rebel to society vibe, you know, and obviously, you know, and literally it was kind of that. So he drew the pocket watch on. He was like, "What do you think to this?" And I was like, "Sick." I said, "But like, instead of a conventional chain, I got like a motorbike chain that heads around here. I didn't want a typical chain, you know, everything kind of had to be like, again, kind of telling my story on my skin, even though it's not, you know, necessarily directly everything, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, pocket watch, that's it. You never know when your time's up.
Like, by no means, I'm not saying that we have to, you know, like, we have to have tattoos that mean anything. You know, for me, tattoos is more like, it's more of like a jewelry for your body. Like, it's cool, and if it has meaning, it's, you know, even better.
Even better, yeah.
I'm only against a silly tattoos that are like stupid. If you're not familiar with what you're getting, I do believe that you need to understand what you get. Like, you know, if you get some, you know, like if you get some bloody Greek mythology gods, and without knowing who they are and what they mean, it's just showing how uneducated you are. And this is a shame in that case. If you know what you're getting, fine. You know, even if you have a reason, you know, to get a pickle Rick on you, if it's fun, and by no means I'm not against, you know, the tattoos that made for fun, the, you know, holiday tattoos, all fine, as long as you understand what you're getting. You know, if you're sober, let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you were sober, you wouldn't have Magaluf.
Yeah, you will remember these, you know, this stuff. Every time you will look at this tattoo, you will remember this kind of nice, you know, nice time you spend there. It will be all cool, you know.
Man.
But just do your research, check what you're getting.
That's it. I mean, like, you know, when I get to the stage where I'm lucky enough to get my legs done, like my first ever tattoo is on the inside of my ankle, and obviously I'm gonna get, you know, my leg done in the future. But I'm gonna tell the artist I want a picture frame tattooing around my first ever tattoo. You know, it's never to be touched, it's never to be fixed. It's absolutely terrible. But I think it's very important that you kind of know where you come from, you know, like like for me, tattoos tell a story, you know.
That's exactly where my first tattoo is, and it's still there to these days.
That's crazy.
I kept it as well. Like, it's not touched. Nobody will ever touch it. But good for me. I can kind of like hide it behind the socks. You get me? So I'm just like lifting my socks a bit up, and like no one sees this particular one. But it's for me. I want it to be there. It's ugly as fuck, but whatever. I don't care.
Man. Yeah, it's like my missus has got my name really small on her ankle, on the outside of her ankle, not done by me. And obviously I make a comment because I got a name quite big on my chest, you know, and I got like a nickname on the inside of my arm, and I done like a skull on the inside of my leg, at the top of my leg, when he's wearing a curved up hat, and I put her name on the inside of the hat, you know, a nickname. And she's like, I made comment. I'm like, "You want my name that big near your foot, like closest to shit possible," you know, joking around. And she's like, well, if you feel that way, tattoo your name on me again. I'm like, I can't tattoo my name on you. It's like writing your name on your rucksack, you know, when you're at school. It's wrong. Like, for me, it's just like, I won't tattoo my name on my missus. It's like, I just feel it's wrong. Like, I think if you wanted it doing bigger, you get it done bigger. It's fine, you know. But I think like the whole, me putting my name on her, I don't know. I just feel like it's a bit disrespectful. Like, I don't know why. I just kind of feel like ownership.
You know why you reminded me? I'm not gonna call the names. Yeah, he's like a big tattoo artist, known around the world. But I remember he did tattoo a face, like few times he did tattoo his missus on somebody else,
Okay.
like a random person, and then he tattooed his own face on the random people as well. And I'm like, I don't know how to, like, what to think about it. I'm like, that's weird. Like, knowing that somebody you barely know, you met this person once in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe like twice, whatever. Like, has your face. Like,
Yeah.
why? And you did it yourself. You tattooed your own portrait on this person. I mean,
Yeah.
that would creep me out. But on top of it, like, you
No.
tattooed your wife's portrait on someone else. And I'm like, I would call me jealous, but I would never tattoo my wife's portrait on someone. Like, I think
No.
it's just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
whatever,
No.
but definitely not for me.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of like
Yeah.
skeptical about this stuff.
Yeah, man. It's like that. That's what I mean. It's like, no, I couldn't. I mean, to be honest, I won't do portraits of people's families. Simply because I'm not at that level, and I think that naturally your emotions attached to that piece that you're expecting borderline unrealistic. And I'm not, and I say borderline because there are, like you said, there are some incredible. I mean, for me, one of my favorite portrait artists is David Vega. Like, I'm absolutely astounded how he is able to bring the needle down to the skin, and he tattoos from fresh air down. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it tattooing. It's fucking mind blowing. Like, I've attempted it, like, and I'm just like, how the fuck's he doing it? Like, how, like, kind of going back to when I first ever discovered Bob Tyrrell doing the pendulum effect, and I'm like, this is insane. And obviously, you can kind of get to grips with that, find your own way to make that work. But I have never been able to achieve what David Vega can do. Like, I'm just like, how the fuck's this dude doing this? I mean, it's just like, it's kind of naturally goes against the basic rules of tattooing, where you in, out, in, out. I mean, of course it's doable because David Vega does it, and there are probably many other artists that can do it as well.
Don't you think it's so fascinating, like, how many different techniques of applying the tattoo is there on the skin, and there's no like right or wrong as long as it works. Like, I've seen a top artist saying like, oh, you only drag line like from the bottom up, so your needle kind of sits like that and you go that way. At the same time, I have like
the skin,
top end artists that say like, you only go from the top to the bottom, like that way. And I'm like, what's the right, what's the wrong way? As long as it works, anything goes.
As long as it works.
You do whip shading, you have to put your machine, like higher up, like voltage wise, like get the voltage up and just move it faster. Or you have to put it down and go slower, but then, what's the right way, what's the wrong way? Like, there's still so much room for the new styles and the new ways, to apply stuff. It's crazy. Same as like, do dry healing. Do second skin.
Right. That's interesting.
Greens.
What's your thought on dry healing? It's interesting because, like, my brother got tattooed by a Japanese artist down the south of England, and he changed artists because he couldn't get hold of it. His artist had moved shops or whatever, and he couldn't get hold of him. His next artist told him to dry heal, and he rang me, video called me. He's like, bro, he's like, this is fucking killing me. Like, I'm like, what? I didn't know he was dry healing. And he shows me his arm. He's like, this is fucking killing. I'm like, what are you on about? He shows me it, and I'm like, shit. And he's like, this guy has told me not to touch it. I'm like, well, look, if that's what he's told you, then you stick to what he's told you. I'm like, but like, his arm looked painful. It wasn't infected or anything, but it looked so tight. Where the skin pulls in whilst it's healing. I was like, I don't know, man. I'm like, I wouldn't do it, but that's up to you.
It's hard for me to judge because obviously I haven't seen the piece, and it can be equally the artist went too deep, or he didn't look after it properly, like went to the gym, rubbed against something, infections, etc. I would not judge these particular cases. I can explain. I can talk about my experience. So most of my life I've been told to use cream pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you get home after the session, you wash yourself, wipe, dry, cream. And I did it. I stuck to it. I did it all my life, and it seems to be a fine. Um, but then recently, I tattooed this guy. Actually, the person with the camera that you did like,
Yeah.
and he does dry healing. Not to the point when he lets it dry and that's it. He never does anything. So first about 2 days, he's not applying anything. First 2 days he lets it dry, and only when it starts to get dry, that's when he starts to apply cream, and as less as possible. And his tattoos do heal perfectly. There's never an issue. Few bits and bobs, touch ups. The reason I know, I literally tattooed the same guy with the camera like couple of days back on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we do like a full leg on him. So I'm not showing it as much. We'll show it soon. And I did. Last time I got tattooed, I followed his steps. I decided to do the same, and it seems to be working really well for me. As I said, like I did not do anything for first few days. So I just let it kind of naturally seal itself, but I never let it to scab. Like as soon as you feel like it starts to dry and it's also like pulls the skin, that's when you put the cream on, and it seems to work really well for me. But completely without the cream, no, I wouldn't go for it. To be fair, because what is helping you to heal the tattoo is an oxygen. So it's not actually a cream that heals your tattoo. It's an oxygen. Your skin recovers itself. The only reason you need a cream for is not to generate a scab. So you put in a cream to help the skin. So, it's the same problem if you over cream it, if you over moisturize it. It actually prolong the healing process.
Suffocate
the skin is not breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
So finding a balance, and again, many different people do it on many different levels.
My brother's arm healed fine, but like when he obviously gave up at some point, and like I say, exactly the information he was told, but when he called me, he was like, like this is really hurting me, and then I saw it, and it was like I say, it wasn't red, it wasn't inflamed, but it was just so dry, and I was like, mate, you do what you got to do, and I'm guessing he would have creamed it because when I saw the tattoo in person, it healed incredible. But like I say, like very similar actually. I say to people, look, my objective for me personally is that I don't want them to scab. When they scab, you knock the scab, it pulls the ink out, and and I always say, like, if I ever have to do 3-round liner stuff, I'm like, please be so careful. I said, because that fine line is like, it's screaming to get knocked and come out, and if you're doing like some real wafer thin, delicate fucking little bit of writing or a little like single passed outline of a flower, which some obviously people want that stuff. I'm like, you really have to be careful with this. Like if not more than anything.
But if you do shading with a round liner, it's almost always like perfect, because a weep shading, stipple shading. Your skin is barely ever damaged, so it barely ever scabs. It heals so perfect, so nice. Like I love the stipple shading. Like if I could, choose one style of tattooing for myself, it probably would be, like whip shading, stipple shading, whatever it's called, like 3-liner all the way. Look at like Alex Rosa, or Troshen tattoos. Oh my god! I mean, fair play. It takes forever. Like one forearm takes 3 days to do. And you're like, wow, But that
it's crazy,
it
right?
puts the details, and they will stay there because of the way it's applied. Because 3-liner, you literally do you kind of doing pixel by pixel, and they will not blur as much over the time. So it's amazing, but unfortunately, it takes time. It does take time.
Yeah. Have you seen these new machines that you can fucking hit them to pulsate? Right, like they literally have you seen them? Like one of the guys, so the guy in the studio, he's got one, and I can't remember who it's made by. But you can literally hit the power button, you hit it again, and instead of going, it goes like, and you can literally like fucking. I mean, he
I've seen
asked
the
me, he said,
needles with like, instead of having one 3-liner, it would have like a group of 3-liners like that,
yeah,
so you can cover a bigger area. But I haven't seen the machines. No, haven't seen anything like that yet.
yeah. So again, I can't remember the
Interesting.
name of it, but it's literally a pulsate. And he asked me, he said, would you use it? I'm like, no fucking chance. I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna fucking do. Like,
I kind of don't
you
see
know
a
what I
point
mean?
of it. If you want the machine to go, to go slower, just reduce the voltage. If you want to do like,
Yeah,
I mean, dot work, just bloody.
yeah. Just sit there.
I
Yeah,
mean, use your wrist. It's easy as you get me. You will
yeah,
have more control, because if you will try to drag the machine when it does like that like movement, and the needle gets stuck under the skin, it will pull the skin. It will damage the skin a bit more. I don't know. Like, I
yeah,
haven't touched it physically. Never saw anything about it, so can't really say much. But
yeah,
just imagining it's
yeah.
a bit confusing.
Have you used any of the mags that have effectively like the middle two needles missing, kind of like you said with the 3 round liners?
I did give it a go once, to be fair. I didn't get along. Like, I didn't understand the point of it. Maybe I was doing something wrong. I tried it. I actually have a few boxes of them in the studio, and I was
Yeah,
like, I'd much rather do whip shading, and then if I need to darken something up, I would just use a normal mark, just to kind of like give it a
yeah.
nicer effect. Feel the area a bit more, rather than just doing it with these
So
needles.
I used a seven curve a curve mag, but a 12 gauge. And I used it in a similar, because obviously I saw these videos. There's these guys doing like full on like delicate lines, and typically I've seen them in like like these fine line roses with the leaves. So I tried to have a go just with a conventional 12 gauge, and I ran it real slow, and I found it worked really nice with running like the fine lines in the leaves. Like where you run your bold line down the middle and you
Oh
come
yeah,
off.
yeah.
And I thought, fucking hell, like this, because
I
obviously
did it. I did
you're
it a few times. I did things like that a few times. Yeah, it does work. It does work. I also love to sometimes line with the magnums. I use like
oh yeah,
13 mark.
flip it on
Like,
its side
instead of
and
using it like that, I just also like put it under the angle. And oh my
yeah,
god,
yeah,
sometimes I do have
yeah,
this like a cool project I'm working on. It's like a Japanese vibe, like as if old Japanese painting. A samurai fights against like a shinobi, like a ninja. It's on the back. It's a big piece, but the samurai has the features of police officer. So he has like like a police officer badge on his helmet. Instead of a sword, he has a police stick. Handcuffs, and the armor is painted similar way as a police uniform is. And then the shinobi has like a Molotov cocktail. So it's like as if he more over a rebel stuff. And I did the lines like that, like a thicker lines. Oh my god, it's just perfect. It stays so well as well. But it takes a bit of, kind of like, you need to
yeah,
get used to it. It's not as, it's not working at every single bit of skin. I wouldn't by no means say that, I'm like professional at that. But obviously,
no,
you learn all the time. You try new techniques, and the whole
yeah,
point of it is a journey, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's kind of
exactly. And
cool.
you obviously you kind of like try to pick parts of the design that you're like, okay, I'm gonna try this. Even if it's like I've done it where obviously I'm trying to learn a new technique, and like I say, I've got loads to learn. Like I'm nowhere near the standard that you're tattooing at, but like I would take area that I know
Uh,
that's going to be
y-
solid black. I know it's going to be solid black, and I would go and do some textures in it, some design, and then I'd say to the guy like, look, I'm just going to take like half an hour here, messing around effectively, but don't worry, like I'd show him the design. I'm like, this is going to be solid black. I said, just let me do this. I'm going to try and mess around with some textures, some different techniques, and and obviously I would always ask if it's okay, yeah, and some people would be like, oh, I don't know, and then I'll be like, no worries, and kind
somebody
of move on
smart,
from that.
somebody smarter than us once said, "The more I know, the more I study, the more I learn, the more I know that I don't know nothing."
Yeah,
So it's like same, the more I learn about tattoos, the more I get into it, the more I dive in, the more I understand, like, wow, the ocean of information and, different styles, approaches and everything, the names and the history is like ridiculous. So yeah, it's one of them industries you can, learn it all your life and still, you still have plenty of things to learn. So we're all going to get there one day, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like you said, there's always, and that's what's so cool. Like when you get like, obviously, I think that was one thing that was so respected with the likes of Jack Rudy, because he never gave up. He never gave up on wanting to evolve. Like wanting to stay with stay relevant. Like learn with new machines, and like I think that when you can take an artist that they've naturally develops experience over years, but still give them the hunger, they're the guys that are like. Not that there's such thing as a ranking. I don't believe that there ever is the greatest tattooist. I think coming back to the word art, I think exactly right. And I think coming back to art is whatever you perceive it to be. Do you know what I mean? And obviously there are going to be 10 artists that do completely different styles, and you can't rank them artists against each other. But I think if you get an artist that's been in the industry for 30 plus years, 40 years, and still has that hunger, I think if there was going to be a ranking, I think you put them guys up there, because it's like that desire to carry on, especially when we're in such an incredibly saturated market of incredible tattooists. It's a great problem, but it's still a problem, and it's not necessarily a bad problem. Like it's not negative. We are very spoiled for incredible artists out there, all over the world. Like I say to people, like, look, you don't even need to leave Hull to get a great artist. You don't even need to leave York. Like there are incredible artists everywhere. Like for me, if I came into a load of money, like there's a color artist I want to get tattooed by in Germany. She does incredible work, and she would be the artist I would let do some color work on my leg. Even though I'm not a massive fan of color, but I want a couple of Marvel characters. So I think it's for me to do like an Iron Man, the colors have to be right. Like they have to be, and I want to do it like very battered, very aged, like it's been through war. Not necessarily taking a design like an image from the movies, but taking an image that's like, it's been put to work. Do you know what I mean? But
I think, talking back about like an artist, what I spotted, because going back to favorite artists and stuff, you just reminded me. If I want to get my back done next, have like a few other things to do first, but when I will be ready, the back is going there, and I would love to get tattooed by Fredao, the one in Brazil. But I do at the same time understand that your back will not get done in one day. No. It's not going to get done in 2 days. And like, to be fair, I'm like 6'6". It's not going to get bloody done in like bloody 4 sessions. I do not think so. No. And to fly to Brazil like 5 times over the year, I'm like, wow, I want to live with both kidneys. I don't want to sell one of them.
No, to get tattooed, yeah.
Yeah, but when I started to do my research on, like British market, like British industry of tattooing, there's not much of a graphic artists. Like I don't know anyone, like that would be as good as him, or like close to it. Obviously, he has his own sort of a signature style, kind of a scaled style. But anything close to that, it's so hard to find. Like, and I spotted that in England, it is mostly either like traditional or realism. Not a lot of people do graphic hair. Not a lot of people, go for this type of style, like a pure graphic or, pure like, steeple shading even and stuff. Most of it is a bit of like, it's mostly realism or traditional, as I see. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but like, even in, when I'm like on the conventions and stuff, if I go around, I don't really see much people that do that, unfortunately, which is, my favorite style at the same time. So one of them.
I mean, like you say, I think obviously like what's crazy is, like you say, the UK market is, and don't get me wrong, not that I'm have a list of people wanting to get tattooed by me, but like I think it's that people people in the UK think that their tattoos are expensive, and it's like, you have to sometimes educate people. Like, look, like America's like average day sessions like $3,000 a day. Like Australia's
It's
even more.
for a very average tattooist.
Yeah,
Depends
yeah.
where,
Like,
obviously.
yeah.
I mean, I used to have a bigger account. I was hacked about 2 years ago. Yeah, I used to have like, not like it was massive, but it was bigger. I had more followers and stuff, and obviously, therefore, I had more client base. Let's put it that way. And I had a client who used to get tattoos of me. He used to fly from California. Kold, his name was, and he was saying like, look, it's cheaper for me to get myself a ticket, fly all over, get a full session over here of you, and then fly back and do a journey out of it, rather than
Yeah.
get tattooed in Cali, because he was like, it would cost me like 5K easy over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had
exactly.
a Swedish student tattooed the full arm on him, like a full sleeve, and I was like, wow, like, you look like a student. Students usually don't have these amount of money. Within a month, the dude got the whole sleeve done. I was like, whom did you steal like money from?
Yeah.
Or like, how wealthy you are. And on the last station, I was like, dude, how come you can afford yourself, that much? He's like, look, I came here to study English. It's my last couple of months, and I really wanted this sleeve to be done. But then, like, if I would go back to Sweden and I would get the same amount of job done there, it would cost me 4 times the price. I was like, well, okay, I get you. So it's not as expensive. You're actually saving yourself money over here sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately, not every country is as wealthy, as another one. But I mean, let's be honest, like Germany, an average price in Germany would be like 1.5. America would be, I mean, 3 and up, depending on the city and the place. I mean, I guess even in America, you can get yourself tattooed for like $400, but it will be somewhere in a caravan park. Most
obviously,
likely.
like the average price in the UK now, my calculations possibly are wrong now, but like I'm sure the average price across the country is now for like £500 a day. Obviously, there are artists that are like 750, 1,000. There are some artists that have had to come. Yeah, there are obviously artists that have had to come down from 1,000 because the economics at the moment they're not getting the clients in at 1,000 purely because people obviously are being more
people can't afford it, but at the same time, you see, the problem is at the same time we all have, you have a studio, you have to pay bills, and the bills go higher. Then equipment costs you more. Especially after the lockdown. Remember the lockdown times when the box of gloves used to cost you a fiver, and like it jumped into like £16 straight away, and it's only a small thing, but it was like a lot of these small things.
They haven't really come back down, the gloves, since that.
Yeah, most of them things no. I mean, I used to work in the tattoo suppliers. I know how it's gone. Like where the prices went and so on. So it is one of them things. It's costly. Like people like, yes, let's put it like that. Yes, we do earn more than an average, average wage. No doubt about that. But like the amount of time we put into
down, though. Not much more when you break it down. Like we're not much like.
Yeah, exactly. When when we talk about like money, I'm like, yes, I'm earning within. You just named the average price of a tattoo. Yeah, a day rate. Let's put it like I have 4 days a week. When I actually earn money, but I have about 60 hours of a week that I actually work, and I'm not getting paid for all these 60 hours. I'm only getting paid for like what is it? 28 hours. I'm getting paid for 28 out of 60. But when you spread this, these income that I have within a week and an amount of hours that I did actually work, it's not much more than an average wage, really. And then on top of it, I have to pay, like studio account. I have to, pay for the equipment, etc., etc. And then, if I'm going on the holidays, who pays me for the holidays?
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm all sick, nobody pays me. So it's not like we struggle, but at the same time, we're not the millionaires. I don't drive Rolls Royce. Let's be
No.
honest.
No,
I don't
exactly.
live, in the center of Liverpool, in the penthouse. Can't pronounce it. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Living up like that lifestyle, but
I mean, don't get
no,
me
that's
wrong.
it.
Being half of a Jewish, I'd like to. Being half of a Jew, I'd like to, but unfortunately, I'm not there. Unfortunately, I don't have, a rich uncle that left me his money when he died. So it's one of
No,
them things.
and let's face it, if you did, you'd probably just be traveling the world getting tattooed by all the artists you want to get tattooed by anyway.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, but no, mate. I think it's been with over 2 hours, man. 2 hours and 12 minutes we have been talking. It's been incredible. So I think for people that obviously want to get tattooed by you, best way to get hold of you would be
Probably Instagram, the easiest one.
okay.
Instagram or email, but to be fair, Instagram would be the best. Just easiest one. Everyone have Instagrams these days.
Yeah, it kind of seemed to be the place that people are reaching out to people.
Instagram, TikTok, anything like that.
Are you on TikTok as well? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
It's a
I
fucking
think I
crazy
have a
platform.
TikTok for like 3 years, and I had one client from there. It's more for the teenagers that like to dance, and unfortunately, if I would start dancing, I think I would, start to lose clients rather than earn them. Unfortunately, I'm not as pleasant looking as some artists.
No, mate, I hate TikTok. I mean, I'm on TikTok, obviously with my 666 customs stuff, but I find TikTok is just, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of TikTok.
Soul destroying. I mean, I'm not
exactly,
a whole. I do prefer an old ways, when people used to get into the studios and, book themselves in. Social media kind of controls us on, unfortunately. I felt that when I got my account hacked and I lost it all, and, I had to create a new one, and like half of my client base just disappeared straight away because they couldn't find me. It became too difficult for people to spend, extra few minutes in trying to, message you directly or get into the studio. They just don't see you in the social media, and they think that you're dead straight away.
Yeah,
It's one of them
crazy,
things.
yeah.
Social media controls everything these days. Unfortunately.
It's I mean, I only play the game on social media just because obviously
We all have,
like effectively, like I say, obviously for me tattooing is just a luxury. Like I love to tattoo. I'm very lucky that I only have to do it as and when I want to. But yeah, I wouldn't like to be having to try and create cool trendy reels to try and get the attention. I don't envy anybody that has to put all this effort into it all to try and be relevant,
to a certain extent. It can be fine, it can be fun, it can be okay to do that. I don't mind to do the some sort of advertisement and shit, but I don't like when it's a bit over the board, when like every single artist now does like a tutorial videos, how to get dressed, what to eat, how to sleep, all these. You're like, come on, man, like who you talking to, kids? Or you want to tattoo like an adults that know what they're getting and what they're doing? Like nobody needs to know all, like no, like not every single artist needs to create all this, a fancy image. And then, it used to be enough for you to post like a decent tattoo, good quality tattoo. Now now you need to go through the certain amount of levels when you like dance, talk, educate, and all this stuff. But like most of the time, it's like, come on, man, it's just silly. It just becomes silly.
Yeah,
over the board, oversaturated of everything, too much.
Yeah,
in my
no,
opinion.
exactly. It's that's it, and it's a similar thing even with the podcasts and things. It's like at the end of the day, like I'm not. I mean, I find so most of my podcasts get listened to like months later, and that's like I get people commenting on a podcast that I did 6-7 months ago. So I think that's it's at the end of the day. Obviously, I somewhat chase numbers. I chase numbers. I'm very conscious of the numbers that are on there, and the only reason is because I want more people to hear your story. I want more people to hear what you have to say, to listen to the podcast, to discover what you're about. And obviously, the more people that do, the more people that follow, the more people I can reach out to get on as well. It's like I said, some of the people I've had on, it is almost like a fucking hell. Like I managed to get this person on. They're but then equally, like I say, I think to be honest, I think I only discovered your work about 2 weeks ago. I think 2-3 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, this is cool, man. And then obviously I spoke to you, and then obviously you were like, yeah, okay, maybe people won't understand my accent, and I said straight away, like, even better, like, because it really is about trying to reach everyone in the world. Like I've interviewed a bike builder from
little stories.
Yeah, man, because I love the stories, right? It's because, like I say, at the very, like, obviously the great thing would be someone listens to your story, follows you on social media, then wants to get tattooed by you. Like if I know that I can help achieve that, incredible. But at the very least, if it inspires somebody to want to have a go, obviously, ideally the correct way of getting an apprenticeship and that. But however, if they do go the way I do, as long as you respect the culture, respect where it is, where it's come from, like hygiene, like don't chat shit on people, because, like, do you know what I mean? There's certain things, just respect certain things. It's, I think
We have a saying, sounds as your words into the God's ears.
Yeah, man, I like that. Your words into the God's ears. That's cool. That's fucking cool. That is cool. I like that one. But yeah, that's it. That's it. It's like, for me, I'm just honored that you've taken over 2 hours after tattooing.
Always a pleasure. My first experience, to be fair, I was shitting myself. I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I was cool all day, like sitting there tattooing my client, and I was like, pretending what kind of a voice I will make, how I will act. Like, should I talk slower, or like try to be like a clown and shit. I was like 10 minutes before the, you got to me. I was like, I start to feel nervous. And then, when we started, I was like, whatever, man, just, we're just talking. Like, just the random conversations. Why not?
That's literally it, man. It's like, I think for me, like, the main thing I hope that everyone gets from, like, what I'm trying to do is, like, I really care about the custom culture scene. Like, I care about hearing people's stories from tattooing, from bike building, from, like, I'm currently organizing an event within a show up in Lincoln called the Custom Culture Blast Off is the show, and I'm responsible for kind of putting together the idea of a budget biker build off, which is obviously literally is what it says. It's budget biker build off, and it's just, for me, it's just, I want every walk of life to be a part of this event. I want every walk of life to be a part of the Biker Build Off event, because it's like from pro builders that are commission built at like 30-40 grand, down to someone going on Marketplace and buying a 300-pound Chinese twist and go 50cc scooter. At the end of the day, if you're willing to take it apart and you're willing to cut it up and, like, have a go, like, you've earned the right to be a part of this event. And that's, like, everything I do, man. Like, everything in the podcast and everything, like, I do it because it's important to me. It's important that, like, I stood next to 30-40 grand builds. But I've interviewed builders that build 30-40 grand. I mean, Bobby, who owns Indian Larry Motorcycles, like, one of Larry's bikes has the highest ever amount it's sold at auction for a custom built bike. It was like $300,000 American dollars, But then equally, I've interviewed somebody that's, like, just learning, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think it's important just not to not forget where you come from. Do you know what I mean? And, like, it doesn't matter whether you're a tattooist or a bike builder or someone that's making leather seats or whatever.
You just have to be starving about the stuff you do, like, passionate about it,
Yeah.
Even if you, even if you have reached a certain level of it, still have to be starved, like, in order to create an artworks, you artist supposed to be starring. He has to have passion about it. No
Yeah.
matter like you have few millions or few quids in the pocket, you still have to be passionate about it. I get it. Like
Yeah,
it's
man. Yeah, exactly. And that's
everyone
why
who
all of this
creates
fits
something
together.
knows how it feels. Like when
Yep.
you accomplish something.
Yep.
That's what I was saying. It's addictive. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You got a tattoo done. That took you 50 hours, or you did a tattoo that took you 3 hours. I believe it's the same with the bikes, with the cars, with everything like graffiti. When you spend bloody 2 days on the wall, you accomplish it. It's the same. You get the same feeling. You get this endorphin kind of a injection in your brain, and that's when you're happy. That's when you're truly happy. Like couple of moments of that time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like really want to know what people think of it, but equally don't care what people think. It's this weird emotion
Combination,
of
yeah.
like, do you know what I mean? Like everyone says, I'm not looking for self-valid. Like bike builders, for example, obviously tattooing is different, but bike builders like, I'm building it for me. I don't care what anyone else says. And I say to people like, look, man, don't chat shit. Like, don't get me wrong, you're building it for you. Like, yeah, absolutely. But you care what other people think. That's why you put it in a show, or that's why you got it featured in a magazine, because you want people to appreciate your shit. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Appreciate it. You
Just
don't
be
need the
honest.
money as much. It's more about the appreciation. You want to show your work, and you want the world to get back to you and say, Mom, that was cool. Like you did the
Yeah.
cool shit. Like
Yeah, that's
all
it.
that takes. I don't need money. Like I'm fine. I'm not
Yeah.
struggling. I don't want to
Yeah.
be a millionaire. But the only thing that I want is people to see my shit and get back to me and say, you know what, that was cool. I did like it. I did
Yeah.
enjoy it. And I guess that's why
That's
we
it.
play this game of social media, just to show us that, to
Yeah,
show
man.
ourselves, to show our works. Like it's not about I don't care will I have hundreds of thousands followers or a couple of 100,000 in my pocket. I'd rather have people just walk around my pieces and be like, yeah, that was cool. I did enjoy this piece. You did well there. That's all
Yeah.
it takes. That's all you need. That's what you get you addictive to.
That's it, innit? And
In a way, I believe in it.
yeah, I definitely, and I think like I say to people a lot, like you got when you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. Like at the end of the day,
Oh,
like
true.
when you know when
100%.
you know you've done the best piece you can do, like, and that's the honest, like you've put out the best you can do, like. And then there are naturally going to be people that say, well, I don't like that. But let's face it, there's always less than there is more people saying that's incredible. Like them ones that do chat shit, which is maybe 5 people go, oh, that was it. I don't understand why they've had that, or oh, I wouldn't have done that like that. You don't care anyway, because like you
Yeah,
put the
true.
best out there. You know the client has enjoyed it, and you know that most people are going to compliment it. And it's kind of like that's what you know what I mean. Like you don't care. It's like it's the same for me. Like, I don't claim. That's what I mean. I'm in my shed cutting up pieces of metal. I don't do it as much as I'd like to, but I don't claim to be a fabricator. Just like I know I can sit here and talk to you about tattooing, knowing that my level of tattooing is literally nowhere near your level, and that's complete, and that's fine. Like it's not me just being humble, and that it's like I know where I'm at. Like I don't claim to be anything else. That's why I know I can sit and talk to all warps of life within the custom culture scene and know that I got nothing to worry about, because it's like I'm not sat here trying to tell you about techniques, trying to teach you techniques, trying to tell you this, say that. It's like I know full well that when this podcast is finished, I'll send you a link to my page, to my tattoo page. You'll look at my work and it'll be okay. Well, he did say that he can only do this. He say he's only at that level. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't want to tell Lom where my page is. I want to say this. I want to say that. I got nothing to worry about. Like, I don't claim to be a fucking award-winning, multi-fucking traveled tattoo artist. Like, I am simply a guy that loves the culture, that's been lucky enough to learn a bare minimum to be able to put out a presentable tattoo. Like, that's it. It's like I love the culture. I'm lucky enough to be a part of it. I feel that what I'm achieving now with 666 Customs is I feel that I found my place. And I think there's nothing wrong with finding your place and knowing your place. Like, you create your own place, but you know it's yours. Then that's what I feel I've done. I feel I've created a place, even though other people have done it or done similar. You know, I'm on a mission with what I'm doing here. I have obviously a business side to it that are what I'm slowly chipping away at achieving, and I'm excited to give it to the world. You know, I'm excited for people to experience my website that I'm having built. It's taking a very long time, but there's a lot to it, and knowing that full well that a professional bike builder can come and use my platform, a professional tattooist can use my platform, an amateur tattooist can use it, an amateur bike builder. Like, it's literally going to have a place for everybody, and it's people are going to be able to engage in everyone's stuff on there, and you know that's where the business side will become. It will be a thing, and yeah, I'm excited for the world to experience it, and I don't think that I ever would have jumped on this mission if I hadn't have experienced a lot of darkness. You know, that's what kind of going back to like where I feel that you have to experience. How do you know what light is if you never experienced darkness? You know,
100%.
and do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just excited for people to. I'm excited just to sit and listen to your story, man. It's just like one thing I'm really good at is I'm really good at talking. So it's like it just made sense. It's
we
like
all do. We all are.
I don't shut the fuck up, and I think whilst I'm here draining you, my missus is happy because I'm not annoying her.
Oh,
you know,
my one was actually like before the start. She was like, "Don't talk too much. You can talk anyone like to death." I was like, I will try to. You know, did not succeed too much.
Oh, it's been incredible, mate. It's been incredible. It's honestly, I could carry on. I mean, the last podcast I did was 3 hours. So it's like we're still like underneath that, you know. It's but no, mate, it's been cool as hell, man. Are you at any conventions this year for people to come and see your work in person?
The confirmed one is I think Wirral. Wirral is definitely confirmed.
Awesome.
I will try to do Liverpool one.
Oh, the
the Stag and Bones owner organizes it. It's like a second year, and I unfortunately missed last year. It was the first year. Last year was the first one he was doing. I was invited on it, and I really wanted to, but it turns out that we had the holidays booked at exactly the same time, and then like, you know, to choose between convention and, you know, going away with the family, I had to choose family. So this is something, you know, I really want to get into. We did 2 years in a row. We did Cornwall convention. I did really like that one, but I don't know yet if I'm gonna go there or not. Probably it did Tattoo Bash this year. It was fun. Last year it was fun. I did really enjoy that. So probably we'll get into that one again. Want to do as many as I can, really, but you know, it's like finding a balance between everyday's life. And you know, and the conventions. So I don't really have many confirmed 100% yet. Also want to do like a few out of the country conventions. Like I want to do a few guest spots, like looking for some like spaces. But to be fair, like just the little one is big enough. Like the kit is big enough now to kind of, you know, like for me to go away for a few, you know, for a week or, you know, or two, and like do a bit of a guest spot. So I was thinking this year to kind of start doing them more, even within the UK. Really want to do and, you know, go somewhere and like do a few guest spots, just for fun, you know, just to change the scenery, you know, get more people to, you know, to know me, to get to know more people myself, you know. Just have fun.
Yeah, really. Like sayings and shit. You know,
exactly.
See what other people
share
are
experience as well. See how other people work. Show how you work, etc., etc. So that's the plan for this year. Nothing is confirmed yet. Still have, you know, few things to do first, but you know, hopefully we'll get there. I'm actually thinking maybe like this month, I need to take some time off work and just sit in my dark little corner and just, organize this year, like literally plan a few things when I can physically go and, visit stuff, when I can actually like conventions to book. It's a constant routine with tattooing with, when you constantly designs, clients, messages, conversations, then, you at work, then when you get from work, you need to spend time with the family. I do a bit of ice hockey with, I do play, my kid plays. So it's like
That's
going
cool.
on I want to chill with my family, but the kid has the tournament somewhere, like in Dumfries, or, I have a game with, my team somewhere else, and finding the time to, to build the plans for the year. You literally need to stop your life, sit and say,
Yeah.
like, don't, but like nobody talk to me now for like a few days. I need to sit
Yeah.
and write everything down. That's the hardest part for me, to organize stuff.
Yeah, man.
Easy
And then you
work.
got
Work
someone,
is easy.
and then you got someone going, do you want to do a podcast? It's like,
No,
fuck.
that actually was something I was looking for, because it was a good experience. I never had it before, and I actually you probably saw me doing the a bit more talking on Instagram these days, and it was a good experience for me to talk to somebody rather than just talking to the camera that stares at you.
Yeah.
Felt myself
Yeah,
like,
because camera's hard, man. Like I
it's
find
hard.
like doing announcement videos, like I can fucking literally, I've done it loads of times. I literally flick my phone around and show it to the camera. I'm like, look how many attempts I've had at this video, and because like I've been obviously doing this on this journey for about 18 months now, and people think. I've had people say, "Oh, Josh, you look like you're so natural with it now. Like at first you were really nervous." And I'm like, look, don't get it twisted. Like I fucking struggle to do announcement videos. Like I find it really, really easy to do a podcast because I'm sat in the corner of my
You just
front
sit and
room
talk to somebody.
talking to
That's
you.
simple.
Like, do you know what I mean? It's like this bit's easy.
That's that little little video that I did on Instagram. It took me about 40 minutes to record about, I don't know, 10 seconds of myself. It's just
man.
ridiculous.
It's
And I
fucking
mean,
crazy.
don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm a foreigner, and obviously, I do have an accent, and obviously, I do mistakes. I'm fully aware of that. I don't give a fuck as long as you understand me.
That's
Whatever.
it, right? And it's like this is
And
what I
it's
said.
not
Like,
bothering me when I talk to somebody.
no,
But when I talk to the camera myself and I hear myself doing a mistakes, I'm like, oh shit, I have to record it all again. And it's like that constant. That's the hardest part.
Like you see that, like the bald picture of me, like that's one video. So there's 12, there's like 11 attempts just at that. And then I can literally go into my deleted files, which I got 139, and look. Yeah. There you see the white ones and the brown ones, like that's attempting 2 videos, like, and that's still now, and like this is kind of like part of my really important message to people is like I make a big deal of showing that to people, not necessarily directly just at my guests. Like I'll tell anybody, and I'm like, look, if you're going to take anything from what I'm saying, this isn't aimed at you, this is aimed at other people I talk to. I'm like, it's not about the bikes, it's not about tattoos, it's not about the custom culture scene. It's literally about me trying to inspire you to move out of your own way and have a go at whatever it is you feel you've got. Your little bubble. Yep. And I said this millions of times already, and I say it on pretty much every podcast. Like literally, what I did one day is I woke up and I realized that it's time to move out of my way. It's if all I can do is inspire my kids to chase their journey, and that's why it's really important. Like I get very little numbers on the podcast. Like I don't get massive following, and it's always kind of going back to how it's really easy when you're winning, but passion comes in when you're not. Because like for me, it's like fucking hell, like I'm doing this podcast, like I might not get many viewers at the time, but it's about carrying on, right? It's about
the journey.
Just like tattooing, when you first learning and it yourself better than me, is like fucking hell, like I had this really great image in my mind, this was going to be an award-winning piece, and it's like it's it's okay, but it's not what I wanted. You know, it's like, you know, and then you pull your piece apart, and then your friends and family
Yeah,
are
man.
sat
Like
there trying.
you see, like Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
all we have to do is just carry on, really, ups and
Yeah,
downs, ups and downs. As I said, like, yeah, I felt myself like, I'm all sorted, I'm all fine when I had like these old account, and then when you get hacked and you literally see it's like, boom, deleted, you have nobody, you have nothing.
fuck.
It's just like, well,
Yeah,
you can get depressed, hang yourself, or you can just carry on and, go and do shit, get yourself out of there, start all over,
yeah.
nothing is that simple. Nothing is
No,
easy.
man.
Good
No,
things are not
that's it.
easy.
That's it, mate. That is for sure. So I think I've kept your time long enough, mate. So people want to contact you on Instagram.
Yeah,
Your
man.
Instagram handle name is
It is long.
It's Islam. Yep. I always let people say it because sometimes I say I'm wrong or I fucking like say someone else's and they look at me like, huh? I'm like, oh shit, sorry, mate.
All good, all good.
But no, mate, it's been
Cool,
a
man.
it's
Was a
been an
pleasure.
honor.
Was a pleasure, an honor. Thanks for the experience.
Yes,
Felt
mate.
amazing.
Yes, it's. I say thanks for coming on. Thanks
My
for
pleasure.
sitting and listening. I'm like a fucking nodding dog on these podcasts, mate. All I do is sit here nodding because I'm so engaged in what you're saying. I'm like, yep, yep, yep. And people, I just look like a fucking idiot.
It's all good, man. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All right, let me end this here.